Vroom, vroom. Quick, get on if you're going on a field trip. All aboard. Lying face down on the floor, Ishizu Takumi held a colored pencil in his hand. The one he was currently using was yellow, having switched from a red one only a few minutes ago. He joyously ran his pencil across the spread out sketchbook, which he was nearly lying on top of. Takumi loved drawing pictures. He would always doodle on the edges of his notes during every lesson of school. The morning news had been left running in the background, but since news and the like was boring to a fourth grader like Takumi, he did not pay it any mind. Vroom vroom, candy, get your candy here, only 300 yen. He was drawing a yellow bus and pretending he was the driver. All ashore, let's go on ashore. We're heading out. Vroom. As he imagined the scene in his head, he made it actually happen in the picture. Times where he would get too excited and accidentally draw on the tatami beneath him were not exactly infrequent. Nanami, who would always read manga, whatever, beside him, would scold him each time he did it. She had some nerve considering she was the little sister, usually saying things along the lines of, "Oh, come on, don't get the floor all dirty." Even so, Takumi never became any less immersed in his art. However, when he got to the point of drawing the people in the window, his hand suddenly stopped. Then he ripped up the sketchbook and threw it away. On the previous day, on the day when the autumn field trip had only been one more day away, Takumi had suddenly been told by his parents that he couldn't go, even though it had been something he had been looking forward to for a very long time. So much so that he had been in constant state of excitement for the entire day, wanting the next to arrive as soon as possible. That cruel declaration from his parents was something Takumi absolutely could not accept. He kicked and screamed, saying he would definitely go no matter what, but it was no use. His parents would not listen no matter what he said, choosing only to repeat the same words again and again. "You just can't. We're doing this for you, Takumi." Takumi sank into his bed and trembled with so much frustration that he was very close to ripping his futon to shreds. He resented his parents from the bottom of his heart. For Takumi, that field trip had been a big event that could not have come soon enough. Everyone else in his class could go, but he alone was not allowed to. From his perspective, that was beyond unreasonable. Takumi was in a lonely world. Everyone else was in a super fun world. To him, it felt like he alone had been completely cut off from it. He could not forgive the teacher, his classmates, anyone. They had all left him behind. And he especially could not forgive his parents for the sudden, unfair decision. Those feelings transformed into pure hatred towards his parents and toward all of his classmates. Takumi bit his lip hard enough to draw blood. He muttered curses at them over and over. "I don't think anyone should be allowed to go." The following morning arrived. The phone had been ringing over and over again since dawn. Each time his mother would pick up the phone, she seemed very shaken while talking. Takumi could not even get a wink of sleep. The clock passed 9 a.m. In her usual well-behaved manner, Nanami was sitting on the floor cushion, reading manga. She had told Takumi the day before, "I'm going to take a break from school to keep you company, okay?" As if she thought it was an obvious thing for her to do. Their father had already gone to work, so he was not around. The mother was very busy with the phone calls and had yet to prepare the breakfast. There was no need for him to go to school that day. Sullen as he was, Takumi opened his sketchbook and began drawing to distract himself. His feelings of rage refused to subside, so he tore up the sketchbook in frustration. As he did that, however... Huh? Hey, that bus. Nanami sounded puzzled. Takumi had thought that she was talking about his picture, but her gaze was actually aimed at the TV. Hey, Mommy! Nanami called out loudly to her mother, who was still busy with phone calls. Not listening, Takumi followed his sister's gaze and stared vacantly at the TV screen. The screen displayed a scene of a collapsed elevated highway. A section that was only about 50 meters long had fallen. Regrettably, a bus driving along there at the time had been caught up in the collapse, toppling onto its side beneath the overpass. It was the very same bus that Takumi should have been on, the bus his classmates were riding on. From just a single glance, Takumi could imagine exactly what had happened. His classmates were on the screen. One child was sobbing, another had blood all across their forehead, and another was lying atop the stretcher being carried into an ambulance. The reporter was announcing the state of the accident with a grave look on their face, but Takumi did not really understand what they were talking about. Taku-chan, it's awful. His mother was standing at the entrance to the room, holding a cordless phone. Her face was pale. The bus for the field trip was in an accident on the highway. It's on TV right now. Mr. Saito died. For some reason, Takumi was already sure of this. Everything happening on the TV was eerily similar to what he had pictured in his head the night before, when he had been overwhelmed by frustration and hatred. There was only one feeling that occupied the depths of his mind, a peculiar conviction, one where he was sure that he had precognitive abilities. Long ago, a show on TV that examined people who claimed to have ESP had been etched into Takumi's mind. A person with precognitive abilities had appeared on the show, shocking the world by demonstrating and frightening ESP in the experiment. The experiment verified whether or not the psychic could guess which of 12 items were placed in which numbered box. They did this by placing the subject in a different room, then proceeding to have them predict which cards with the item name on them belonged to which box. Afterwards, staff members in the other room would place the actual items into the boxes, and then verify how many psychic foretold. Afterwards, staff members in the other room would place the actual items in the boxes, then verify how many the psychic foretold. The person on the show received an incredible 90% correct, causing an uproar among the entertainers. As this happened, Takumi tested if he could predict things in the same way the psychic on TV did, only to get every single one correct. Of course, he did not tell anyone about this. So, as he gazed up at the TV, he believed that the accident was yet another instance of his precognitive predictions being exactly right.
クラスの半数以上の子が怪我したらしくて。
It sounds like over half the class is injured.
なんてこと。
Oh, how awful. His mother tried hugging him as he lay down, but Takumi avoided her grasp and crawled into the corner of the room.
でも、本当によかったわ。
But I'm so relieved. Her eyes swam about as she whispered in a hollow voice.
今日、タキちゃんを休ませておいて、本当によかった。
I'm so relieved that I made you stay at home, Taku-chan. Takumi felt sick. They were useless, he thought to himself. His abilities had not made a single difference. Just thinking about it made his heart turn to ice in an instant. After that, Takumi stopped speaking to others for a while. He quite literally went mute. He did not say a single word to another soul. His parents worried about him, and their already overprotective habits escalated even further. Finding them to be acting more and more ridiculous, Takumi thus decided to play the role of a mute boy. He thought of it as a revenge against them. Due to his complete lack of talking, his mother took him to be seen in the psychiatry ward of the general hospital, and there he was diagnosed with PTSD. Since Takumi did not actually have PTSD or anything of the sort, he never once took his medicine. He merely pretended to. His parents never realized he was acting, and in the end, he didn't feel a hint of pity as they worried themselves sick over him. Everything feels like a lie. The world was filled with falsities. It was overflowing with malice. It was out to get me.
いつもあなたが使っているチャットルームへログインして自分で調べてみてください。
Please log into the chat room you always use and take a look.
私の言っていることが間違っていないってわかるはずです。
Then you'll understand what I'm saying is true.
それと、
Anne,
私が言ったことは全部本心です。これだけは信じて。
everything I said, it was all genuine. I hope you can at least believe me about that. After bombarding me with her nonsensical theories, Yua had said one last thing before she'd left. There was no way I could believe her. How the hell was I supposed to believe someone that had been lying to me this entire time? I refused to believe that everything there was me, like you had said. Everything she had said about me being Shogun was a total joke. I wanted to believe that. But when I checked the timestamps in the chat log, there was no mistaking that the conversation wasn't matching up.
僕は無遊病なの。
Have I been sleepwalking? Problem was, during the time Shogun appeared to be posting in chat, I hadn't been sleeping at all. If I recalled correctly, I had indeed been at the internet cafe at the time, but I hadn't slept, so I couldn't have been sleepwalking. In that case, I wondered why I didn't have any memories of posting this Shogun. Maybe my body had been under someone else's control, which would mean... Nah, that's ridiculous. I felt that the best way to calm myself down was to escape from reality into the fictional world of ESO. In ESO, everything was fake, a lie. At the end of the day, its world was just a part of a video game. But in Baselard, I could become a godlike existence known as Neidhart. Fabrication like that, a lie like that, was something I'd readily accept. I wanted to stay there. Nobody would mind if I did, would they? Or maybe. The world of ESO was actually the real world. My own reality was the fake one, just a game. In that case, Nishuju Takumi would be a fictional character, and Neidhart would be my true form.
ねえ、ナイトハルト。
Hey, Neidhart. I called out to the paladin standing inside the monitor. Am I controlling you, or are you controlling me? Which is it? Could you be real, and I am your avatar? What if the world I was in was just a game in and of itself? If that were true, then that would solve every mystery I was struggling with. What if, just like I was staring at Neidhart with my monitor, what if someone was staring at me in the exact same way? Whose eyes are those eyes? That would make them the player controlling me. If I did have someone controlling me, would it kill them to do less of a shit job? Though I guess an avatar couldn't really complain. It would also explain how Shogun and I could be the same person, validating that theory. Come to think of it, it was kind of like what Lysalit was. Neidhart and Lysalit couldn't possibly exist in Baselard at the same time. I was the only one playing as them, after all. Maybe Shogun and Nishuju Takumi were similar, and they also couldn't exist in the world at the same time. It was also possible that it was a bug. Speaking of bugs, encountering that bizarre girl in a murder case, as well as a whole bunch of other stuff that happened, could have been bugs too. The image Shogun had sent me flashed through my mind. I gripped my head with my hands and frankly shook it away. I wanted to run away from everything. If maybe, just maybe, there was a player controlling me. Please, reset me already. Just remake my character and start from scratch, please. The waiting room of the university hospital was filled to the brim with middle-aged people waiting to be examined. The view hadn't changed from a few years prior. It almost made me feel as if time itself had stopped there. Moreover, everyone there looked miserable, and the smell of disinfectant pervaded the stagnant air. It was the kind of place that sucked all the life out of you and made you wish for a sweet embrace of death in 5 minutes tops. I didn't like hospitals. The way the lobbies had countless people, yet the corridors beyond felt completely devoid of them, had always freaked me out ever since I was a little kid. It almost felt like the corridors themselves absorbed and stewed in the stench of death. I always felt like that was what a hospital truly represented beyond its outer facade. I even thought that some horrifying creature was lying in wait deep within the corridors. That was why I really didn't want to go there. But there was something I had to make sure of no matter what. So I found myself reluctantly waiting my turn in line for an examination. Even when I tried to fully immerse myself in ESO, the bombshell that Yua had dropped on me continued to swirl around and around inside my head, and I hadn't been able to concentrate for even a second. As a result, my mind had been torturing me with all the various possibilities all the way until morning, and I had become genuinely scared that something was wrong with me. That was why I went to the hospital, to get an official stamp of approval from a medical professional that said, Nishizu Takumi is completely normal. I wanted to prove that it wasn't me who was abnormal, but Yua. I was used to come into the hospital psych ward, and yet, when the girl at the reception asked, "Is this your first time?" I nodded without thinking. Ever since that bus accident, my mother had regularly taken me there for checkups. During middle school, my physician had said that I completely recovered, and I stopped going after that. This was my first time coming back in about 4.5 years. My first physician had been some senile professor who was supposed to have some authority in the field, but I'd only seen him a few times. And after that, someone else had taken over, a student of his or something. Although, despite calling himself the other guy's student, he hadn't been particularly young. To be honest, he looked pretty old. The night before, I was reminded of something that Dr. Takashina had said. Takashina.
ここは病気や怪我だけじゃなくて心にも効く病院なんだよ。
This hospital isn't just for physical injuries, but also for mental ones. I hated hospitals, but that doctor had been very nice. He'd left a good impression on me, and I thought he was a good person. Well, even then, I'd still thoroughly fooled all the adults to the very end. That is, except Dr. Takashina. He'd seen through it all, and he was the one that had declared me completely recovered.
あの人に調べてもらえれば。
If I can get him to examine me. I wondered what he'd say if he learned I'd become an otaku freak. Nah, there was no way he remembered me after all this time. It didn't take long for me to be called into the examination room. I'd expected to be waiting here for quite a while, but I guess I was wrong. Why had there been so many people in the lobby then? Maybe they were being paid to sit there just to make it look busy. It was a different examination room than the one 4 years ago. But when I stepped inside, I was welcomed with a face I remember dearly.
いやー、西条くん。
Hey there, Nishizu-kun. Dr. Takashina rose to his feet with a familiar smile, then reached his hand out to me. Realizing he was searching for a handshake, I hurriedly reciprocated.
また君に会えて嬉しいよ。
It's so delightful seeing you again.
いや、 嬉しいというのは変かな。
Well, I suppose delightful might be a strange way of putting it.
君にしてみればまたここに来るというのは辛いことなわけだからね。
After all, you must be having a really hard time for you to come back here again. Despite it being 4 years since we'd last seen each other, he was incredibly friendly. My slight nervousness that I've been struggling with was eased in seconds.
それで今日はどうしたんだい？
So what brings you here today? He gestured for me to sit down, so I did. Likely due to all the tension melting away, I told him everything about what had happened to me, and what might happen to me in the future. I stumbled over my words many times, probably because I wasn't used to talking so much, but Dr. Takashina didn't rush me. He listened to me intently with a serious look on his face, while offering occasional interjections to make sure I knew he was following. Of course, I also told him everything about Yua and the demon girl. I considered that doing so might be dangerous, but right now he was the only person I could rely on.
結論から先に言おうか。
Well then, that should be enough for me to tell what's wrong. After hearing everything I had to say, Dr. Takashina pondered for a moment, then began to speak.
君は正常だよ。
Nothing. You're perfectly normal.
何の問題もない。
There's nothing wrong with you at all.
本当ですか？
Are you sure?
もちろん。
Of course. Those were the words I wanted to hear more than anything. I dragged myself to the hospital for the sole purpose of hearing them. I was scared that he'd tell me there was something wrong with me, and I had no idea what I would have done if he had. But getting checked out by Dr. Takashina had been the right choice after all.
むしろおかしいのはその楠木さんという女性だね。
Rather, the one who may have something wrong with her is the girl you mentioned, Kusunoki-san.
西条くんの話だけで判断するのは難しいが、おそらくその女性は精神的な障害を患っているだろう。
It's difficult to judge from your story alone, but that girl may be suffering from some kind of mental disability.
今後君に危険を及ぼすような行動に出る可能性がある。
There is a real possibility that she will take actions that will endanger you.
すぐに警察に通報しよう。
As such, we ought to inform the police as soon as possible.
え？
Huh? The police? True, that was probably the safest option. He was right. There had to be something wrong with Yua. She was batshit insane. The thought of her stalking me again sent shivers down my spine.
もちろん僕も責任を持って君を保護するつもりだ。
Of course, I intend to take full responsibility for your safety. Looking at me with a powerful, reassuring gaze, Dr. Takashina clapped his hand on my shoulder encouragingly. He even handed me his business card, complete with his phone number.
何か問題が起きたらいつでも連絡をくれて構わないよ。
If any problems occur, do not hesitate to contact me at any time.
24時間いつでも君のところに飛んでいくからね。
I'll be available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Just give me a call and I'll be there in a jiffy.
いいんですか？
Huh? Are you sure?
当たり前だよ。
Absolutely. You needn't even ask.
僕は君の主治医なんだから。
I am your primary physician, after all. I was on the verge of tears. I was truly grateful to be under his care, from the bottom of my heart. Doctors as good as him were hard to find nowadays.
悪魔女のことについても 通報した方が良さそうだね。
Regarding the demon girl, it would be best to report her as well, don't you think?
西条くん、君の見たその女がニュージェネの真犯人で間違いないよ。これはものすごい目撃証言だ。
Nishizu-kun. The girl you saw must be the true culprit of the new gen. There's no mistaking it. You carry an incredible witness testimony. Dr. Takashina seemed somewhat excited, but you couldn't tell from his tone. As always, he spoke calmly.
事件は西条くんのおかげで解決だ。
Those cases will be all resolved thanks to you, Nishizu-kun.
君は渋谷のヒーローだよ。
You're the hero of Shibuya.
僕はこの瞬間に立ち会えて実に光栄に思う。
I feel beyond honored to be standing here before you at this very moment. I was a hero? This wasn't ESO. There was no way someone like me could be a hero. No way in hell. But when I imagined it, my face just about broke into a grin. Middle school girls, high school girls, college girls, MILFs, all of them would be screaming my name and how much they love me. I'd be renowned all over the world as one of the most charismatic people to ever live. Renowned? 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 Being a TV celebrity sounded cool and all, but I didn't want to appear in front of people, so I'd create a startup company instead. Then I'd become a hugely charismatic boss making the big bucks. I'd be surrounded by a harem of beautiful secretaries serving my every need, and of course, I'd trip all their flags and make them go crazy over me. I'd have a high-rise apartment in Roppongi, and hire a bunch of cute maids. It'd be like my own personal maid cafe. Of course, I'd be indulging in the endlessly passionate nightly services. JK. Just kidding.
まさに勝ち組。
I want a life. I abruptly came to my senses, only to find myself sitting on the sofa in the lobby. Unable to grasp what exactly was going on, I frantically looked around the room. Beside me was a hunched-over lady. Her eyes were covered in wrinkles, so I couldn't tell whether she was asleep or awake. I took a look at the clock above the reception desk and saw that I'd been waiting in the lobby for a full hour. Had that all been just a dream? I hadn't slept last night, so had I dozed off while waiting? How glorious it would be if that dream was actually real. Talk about disappointing. In the end, I found myself waiting for another 2 hours before my name was finally called. When I entered the examination room, it almost felt like the same events I'd seen in that dream were happening again. Dr. Takashina even appeared almost exactly like he had in the dream. It was probably just that he'd barely changed since the last time I saw him 4 years ago. But this time, he didn't rise from his seat, nor did he offer to shake my hand.
今日はどうしました?
How can I help you today? And unlike the dream, he didn't seem especially happy to see me again.
西条です。
Well, Nishiju.
ん? ああ、これはご丁寧に。
Yes. Introductions are probably in order.
高階です。はじめまして。
My name is Dr. Takashina. It's a pleasure to meet you. He bowed his head cheerfully. I was lost for words. It's a pleasure to meet you. that was what he had just said. He had completely forgotten me. I shouldn't be surprised. It'd been 4 years after all. But I truly believed that Dr. Takashina, of all people, would remember me. Maybe that was arrogant, but I'd hope for it all the same. So my heart was overwhelmed with loneliness and emptiness when those expectations were smashed to pieces. It felt like my very existence was being denied. Dr. Takashina started talking to me while making eye contact, but I averted my eyes.
無遊病かどうか調べてほしいと書いてあるが、
It's written here that you wanted to check whether or not you've been sleepwalking, yes?
何かあったのかな？
Should I take that to mean something happened during your normal sleeping hours? Right. I'd written that on a questionnaire, but it was all meaningless now. He didn't remember me at all.
別にいいじゃん。
Who cares if he doesn't remember?
先生が覚えてようが覚えてなかろうが関係ないっしょ。最初の目的を忘れちゃダメ。
Whether he remembers you or not has nothing to do with anything, does it? Don't you dare go forgetting your mission. Oh, right. I hadn't come here to meet Dr. Takashina. I'd come here to prove that I was a completely healthy and sane human being. Our union was merely a bonus. Who gives a shit if he had forgotten me? If Sierra-tan hadn't stepped in and given me that advice, I would have come dangerously close to losing sight of myself. Phew.
自分でも知らないうちに外に出かけててパソコンで文章打っててそれを全く覚えてないなんてありえますか？
Is unconsciously doing stuff like going outside and typing sentences on my PC without remembering any of it. Can that kind of thing happen?
おお。
Oh.
知り合いからそう指摘されて混乱しちゃって。
Someone I know pointed it out to me, and I've been so confused.
その知り合いの人が冗談を言っているっていう可能性はあると思うかい？
Do you think there's a possibility that this person is merely playing a prank on you? Yu's eyes have been serious. It hadn't looked at all like she was messing with me. At the very least, I had no doubt that Yu believed what she said.
わかりません。
I'm not sure.
なるほど。
I see.
ちなみにその知り合いとはどういう関係だろう？恋人？
Also, what kind of relationship do you have with this person? A romantic one?
はあ？
Huh? Where the hell did that come from? What did it have to do with anything? Was I missing something here?
いや、言い方が悪かったかな。じゃあ言い直そう。
Well, that might not have been a good way of putting it. I'll rephrase.
その知り合いの人は、君が意識もないまま歩き回っているのを実際に目撃したのかな？
Did this person you know actually witness you walking around while unconscious? Oh, so that was what he meant. I shook my head.
じゃあ、証拠はないわけだ。
So that means there's no evidence of it. I once again shook my head.
そいつ探偵気取りっていろいろ証拠を突きつけてきて。
They acted like a detective, confronting me with evidence and stuff.
うん、そういうことか。
I see.
ちなみに、これまでにも無遊病の兆候はあったかい？
While we're on the topic, have you ever shown any signs of sleepwalking before now?
いえ。
No.
朝目覚めたらいつものベッドじゃなくて違う場所で寝てたっていうことは過去に一度でもあった？
Have you ever experienced waking up in the morning only to find yourself in a different location than the one you had gone to sleep in?
いえ。
No.
じゃあその知り合いに言われたのが初めてっていうことだね。
So that would mean that the event this person told you about is the first time you believe you've experienced it, correct? After nodding weakly, I steeled myself and spoke.
僕、寝てないんです。
I haven't slept.
もしかして怖いのかな。でもそんなに深刻になる必要はないよ。
Is that scaring you? If so, I assure you it isn't anything serious.
いや、
Oh, no, That's not what I meant. But I couldn't figure out how to explain it, and it was too late to say it out loud anymore. I was too flustered. After scribbling something on his medical form, Dr. Takashina swiveled away from me in his chair and leaned forward toward the back of the examination room.
葉月くん、ちょっと。
Hazuki-kun, a moment, please.
はい。
Of course, doctor. Four eyes fan. Huh? Something about glasses? Did I say, of course, doctor. The young nurse rushed over to him, and Dr. Takashina showed her the form. As he did so, he whispered for her to do something, and she quickly withdrew to the back of the room. What had that been about? The doctor turned back toward my puzzled self. Then, in a gentle voice, he began to explain to me how sleepwalking worked. When a person falls asleep, they first begin non-REM sleep, before eventually progressing to REM sleep. Non-REM sleep is a deeper sleep where the brain hibernates and brain activity ceases. Meanwhile, REM sleep is a kind of sleep where the body is resting, but the brain is active in a state that's fairly close to being awake.
無遊病はノンレム睡眠の時に起きやすいって言われてる。
Sleepwalking is believed to more easily occur during non-REM sleep.
脳が通常の活動をしていないから普通の受け答えとかは成立しにくいけど、ちゃんと返事もするし、階段などを踏み外さずに上り下りすることだってできる。
With the brain not performing its usual activities, it's difficult for it to formulate normal responses. It can still respond accurately to a certain degree, however, even allowing actions such as climbing up and down a staircase without a single misstep.
原因としては精神的なストレスを抱えてる時になりやすいんだ。
One cause of it is when experiencing severe mental stress. It can easily occur then.
子供に多い症状だけど、成人でもよくある症状なんだよ。これで分かっただろ？深刻になることはないって言った意味が。
It's a common symptom in children, but it also often occurs in adults. That should explain it, yes? That's what I meant by it not being nothing serious. Oh. Okay. But I hadn't been sleeping. Even though I hadn't been sleeping, I'd still done things I didn't remember. The time Shogun had been posting from room 37 in the chat room should have been when I was busy playing ESO. Could sleepwalking really be possible there? I wanted to ask him that, but he was already moving to a different topic.
無遊病かどうかを調べる方法としてはいくつかある。一番手っ取り早いのはここのベッドで寝てもらうことだね。
There are many ways to check whether or not you've been sleepwalking. As for the most quick and easy way, well, we'd have you lie down on this bed right here.
ただ、特定条件じゃないと発生しない場合もあるかもしれない。例えば、自分のベッドじゃないとダメとか。
However, there may be certain conditions that need to be met in order for it to occur. For example, it might not happen if you aren't lying in your own bed.
意識がない状態で出歩くにしても、目的もなくふらふらと歩き続けるのか。
While you may be walking around in an unconscious state, you could be walking around aimlessly.
それとも、何らかの強迫観念があって、それに影響されて何らかの一連の目的を持って出歩いているのか。
Or you could be driven by something compulsive, leading you to walk around with a series of goals.
それに、君の精神状態についても、特定の条件下じゃないとダメかもしれない。自宅のベッドの上ならリラックスできるけど、ここじゃリラックスのしようがないわけだ。
Moreover, it could also require specific conditions regarding your mental state. For example, you would be able to relax on your bed at home, but you would have no way of relaxing here.
どうする？とりあえず寝ていってみるかい？
Well, what do you think? Would you like to try sleeping here regardless? I had nothing to lose, so I didn't see a reason not to try. Then, after I proved I wasn't sleepwalking, I could try asking the real question I had in mind. The nurse from before, Azuki-san or something, guided me over to the hospital bed located at the back of the room. As it wasn't a bed meant for sleeping, it was firm and uncomfortable. Then again, considering the sofa I usually slept on, that shouldn't pose any problems for me.
3時間くらいしたら起こしに来ますから。
I'll come to wake you up in about 3 hours from now. This nurse was pretty damn cute. As I lied on the bed, I took a quick peek at her face while being careful to avoid eye contact. Her baby face made her look kind of unreliable, and she even had this almost despondent aura about her. But she was doing her job pretty well. She felt like a heroine right out of a classic eroge, one with kinky hospital sex.
できるだけ目は離さないようにしていますので、安心して眠ってくださいね。
I'll make sure to keep a close eye on you, so please relax and have a nice rest, okay? Basically, symptoms of sleepwalking occurred. Like I started wandering around on my own. She'd make sure I didn't get hurt or anything.
それでは、ごゆっくり。
Well then, good night. After giving a slight smile, the nurse closed the curtain and left the hospital room. Now surrounded by a pure white curtain, I took a deep breath. All around me, I could hear the voice of doctors examining patients, and the sound of nurses running around, and the sound of the door of the examination room opening and closing. Yeah, I doubted I'd be able to relax here. Could I actually fall asleep like this? Figuring I had nothing to lose, I closed my eyes. No matter what I did, my mind refused to think of anything other than that corpse that had been massacred and crucified with stakes, as well as the gory pictures Shogun had sent me. So I forcibly conjured Sierra-tan in my head.
Taki, 外出嫌いなのに病院来るなんてすごい。
Taki, you're amazing for going to the hospital even though you hate going outside.
私前から思ってたんだけどさ、タッキーって実はすごく強い男の子だよね。
I've been thinking this for a while now, but like, you're actually super duper strong, aren't you, Taki? Sarah animatedly moved about in my delusion. Her cute voice chirped for me.
私、そんなタッキーの強さが
I really love how strong you are.
それに、タッキーは無遊病なんかじゃないよ。私、毎日タッキーのこと見てるもん。だからわかるさ。
Also, Taki, you know, you don't sleepwalk, right? I watch you every day, so of course I'd know. I'm a gosh darn Taki expert.
三次元女になんか騙されちゃダメだぞ。タッキーには私がいるっしょ。
You can't let those 3D girls trick you. Besides, you've got me right here. Righto.
またコンテナハウスで二人きりで過ごそうね。ボケなす。
Let's spend time in that container house again. Just the two of us. You big dum-dum. Whee! Saratan. You're so cute, Saratan. She really was my ideal waifu. There wasn't a single woman better than her. 3D? The fuck was that? I want to go home already. I want to go home and have Saratan welcome me back with a smile. Wait for me, okay, Saratan? I'll be coming home soon. You'll go neutral.
西条さん、
Ishujo-san.
起きてください。時間ですよ。
It's time to wake up. Come on, open your eyes. Saratan softly placed her hand on my chest and gently rustled me awake. Ah, now this is the kind of thing I've always dreamt of. Living together with Saratan, I'd have her wake me up every morning wearing nothing but an apron, complete with a wake-up kiss.
西条さん、
Shujo-san. I slowly opened my eyes. Someone was looking down at me from above. I accidentally made eye contact with them. It was the nurse, Hazuki-san. Duh. I frantically looked around myself. Just like before, I was lying on the hospital bed. So, everything from when Saratan started talking to me was just a dream.
おはようございます。
Good morning.
結局3時間ぐっすりでしたね。
You ended up sleeping soundly for 3 hours. A full 3 hours? But it felt like I hadn't slept any more than 5 minutes. As I rubbed my eyes in a daze, Hazuki-san glanced at me, before covering her mouth as if she couldn't hold back a smile.
セイラさんって彼女さん？
Is Sarah-san your girlfriend? What?
ずっと寝言でつぶやいていましたから。
You were muttering her name in your sleep the entire time. Even I could tell that I was going pale. I made one hell of a mistake. How could I have let someone hear my sleep talking? What's more, of all things I could have said, I blurted out Saratan's name. Fuck! So this is despair. I want to die.
でも無遊病の症状は結局出ませんでしたよ。
But ultimately, you show no signs of sleepwalking. As she opened the curtain, Hazuki-san conveyed that to me.
まあ今日はたまたま症状が出なかっただけかもしれないから無遊病でないっていう断定はできないですけど。
Well, it's possible that the symptoms didn't occur today by chance, so we can't definitively say that you haven't been sleepwalking. No, I really don't think I'm a sleepwalker, so... More importantly, I had to ask the doctor that really important question. But I couldn't see him anywhere. As I looked around, Hazuki-san handed me a blank form. not really focusing all that hard. I took it from her and ran my eyes over it. It was a fill-in-the-blank style form.
それはあなたの心理状態を把握するためのチェックシートです。心理テストのようなものね。それを書いてくれたら今日はもう帰っていいって先生が。
It's a checklist to assess your mental condition. It functions more or less like a personality test, and the doctor said you can go home after filling it out.
先生は
Where's the doctor?
ごめんなさい。ずっと診察が続いてて。
I'm very sorry. The doctor is busy with other patients right now.
来週まで様子を見て、まだ改善が見られないようならもう一度来てくださいって。
He said to see how things go until next week, and to come again if there's no signs of improvement. Then again, it wasn't like he was my primary physician or anything, I suppose. He'd probably just given Hazuki-san a bunch of directions to get me out of here. Well, I guess that meant there had been pretty much no point in me coming to the hospital today. I really wanted to ask Dr. Takashina about that someone that wasn't me controlling me. Whatever it meant, it was a really chilling symptom, so I didn't want to leave without getting an answer. That being said, I didn't have the courage to demand Hazuki-san bring him back to see me, especially when she had already looked so apologetic. Reluctantly, I decided to give the test a try. Guess I'd write about my symptoms on the back of the sheet or something. If I did that, I should be able to get another examination scheduled for next week.
チェックシートは質問に対してイエスかノーかだけを答える簡単なものですから。
The test is very simple. Each question you answer with either yes or no.
当てはまる点があったらイエスにチェックしてくださいね。
If the question is applicable to you, please mark the box labeled yes.
今後の西條さんの治療に対する参考にしますから、じっくり考えて答えてください。
It will be used as a reference so we can personalize your treatment going forward. So please consider your answers carefully. Hazuki-san went out of her way to explain the procedure thoroughly. The test had some strange questions mixed in, ones you wouldn't normally expect to run into in a hospital. It really did seem like some sort of personality test. Would they really be able to actually learn something from questions like these? Hazuki-san stared at me intently. She showed no signs of leaving. But it wasn't like she had nothing else to do or anything. It was more like she was monitoring. No, watching over me or something. My nervousness at being watched made it hard for me to think clearly, but I guess she was doing her job. Either way, I knew I ought to fill out the test quickly. I'll actually pick yeah. Is it everything? I'm not sure about that one. Has he cried? I'm not sure. Oh, there's a lot of them. Holy moly. Should I take this like I'm actually taking it, or I'm feeling like I should click all of these for him.
はい、お疲れ様でした。
Thank you very much for your time. Azuki-san thanked me as I answered the final question, despite the fact that I hadn't said anything. I felt pretty embarrassed at being watched the whole time. My face was probably bright red. Because of that, I avoided looking at Hazuki-san when I handed her the test. There had been no time to write my symptoms on the back.
それでは待合室でお待ちください。
Now then, please go wait in the waiting room.
お薬が出てますから。
We'll have your medication out to you in just a few minutes.
薬
Huh? Medication? They were prescribing me something? Dr. Takashi never said anything about that.
ええ、先生の指示で。弱い精神安定剤です。ぐっすり眠れるようになるし、副作用などもありませんよ。
Yes, as per the doctor's orders. It is a weak sedative. You'll be able to sleep more soundly, and there aren't any side effects. Oh, wow. Thoughtful as ever, Dr. Takashina. And yet, when I realized I would have to wait in that lobby again, my mood was immediately sent spiraling. By the time I'd gotten back to Shibuya, it was already evening. The hospital was technically in Shibuya Ward, but since Yogi was the closest station to it, commuting via train was the fastest. But the Yamanote line had been as crowded as ever, and despite only being 2 stops long, the trip back still made me incredibly tired. Riding the train any farther would have been a pain in the ass, so I decided to get off at Shibuya Station and make my way back to base from there. Even then, there were still tons of people outside the station. I despised crowds. They made my head spin. Not wanting to stay much longer, I tried to speed walk out of the scramble crossing. But even walking straight was nigh impossible. Stumbling even slightly caused people from both behind and in front to bump into me. What's more, a bunch of people handing out pocket tissue packs blocked the way, practically forcing everyone who passed by to take them. Fed up with everything, I ignored the first person to hand them out, but I took some off the second because at least she was a cute girl. Oh, grill. She was a cute grill. I was so sick and tired of these people handing out tissue packs and shit to push their products. Didn't they have anything better to do than stand right in the middle of the road? Well, whatever. It was free, so might as well take it. Inside the tissue pack I took was a red flyer, and there was a paragraph's worth of shit written on top of it with white ink. Talk about ostentatious. Like, holy shit. You couldn't exactly miss something with that color scheme. As I walked along, I gave it a quick skim. It was a blood donation flyer. As I read it, I thought back to the form I'd filled out in the hospital. I didn't have any memory of filling out something like that 4 years ago. Maybe the way they examined patients had changed recently. Even then, though, something felt oddly familiar about the test. Deja vu. I've been getting hit by it all the time recently. Having my mind and body not function the way I wanted them to, the sense of dissonance, was an incredibly uncomfortable feeling. So in order to ascertain the true cause behind the deja vu, I tried flipping back through the pages of my memories. I thought back to when my mom would take me to the hospital about once a week. I kept my mouth shut at all times and only expressed myself via nodding or shaking my head. At first, I'd been taken to a perfectly ordinary examination room, but since I showed no signs of improvement, I started going to a different room before long. The room had essentially been a counseling room, which meant it put the patient's relaxation first and foremost. In other words, there were sofas and plushies and whatnot located all throughout the room. Dr. Takashina had taken a very patient approach to treating me, all while refusing to blame my situation on anyone. He alone caught on to how I was merely choosing not to speak, rather than having the inability to do so. Meanwhile, my mom would always talk to me in an unnaturally cheery voice. Every time I had gone to the hospital, the doctor would always welcome me with a refreshing smile. The nurses also treated me with all the love and care they could, and... And I had a feeling that there had always been one more person in that room. Right. There had been a man in a black suit, one that felt fairly out of place in the hospital. As I'd been doing my best not to speak, I never asked about him. I didn't know who the hell he was the entire time he was there. He didn't feel like a doctor, and he always stood all alone, a fair distance away from everyone else, all while gazing out the window. I had dubbed him Mr. Nozomi in my head, though that wasn't his actual name or anything.
のぞみ
Nozomi. The man in the suit always had a badge on his chest, no matter the situation. And on that badge was the word Nozomi. It looked like a logo to me though, so it probably wasn't a name tag. Oh, I knew why it was bothering me now. That test from before also had the Nozomi logo printed on it. I had a hunch that I'd seen it somewhere before, and now I finally remembered exactly where. It was like a huge weight had been lifted off my chest. That aside, what was the Nozomi anyway? I was pretty sure it was the name of a business.
のぞみさんっていう美人女社長が設立したカウンターテロ組織とか漫画みたいだ
It could be a counter-terrorist organization founded by a gorgeous female CEO named Miss Nozomi. Nozomi. Whee! Just like a manga. When I had arrived at my base, I'd gone straight to looking up Nozomi online. However, there were so many results that I couldn't manage to pin down anything specific. Well, let's go with a more normal theory first. That Nozomi guy could have been from the company that made the test, and he was just at the hospital in order to sell them or something. The hospital had then adopted the tests recently, and they decided to have me fill one out today. Nah, I doubted that. I never heard of some rando attending a patient's examination like that. So, who the hell was that Mr. Nozomi guy? Memories kept pulling at my mind, but I was fed up with it at that point. Either way, the reason behind my deja vu is now clear. I decided that I'd ask Dr. Takashina about my memory issues next week, but until then, I was going to stay cooped up in my room without bothering with school. There was no way in hell I'd go to school where people were trying to hurt me. In all honesty, I really don't want to screw up the minimum attendance chart I'd so carefully constructed, but It wasn't worth getting myself killed over. I gave up on my Nozomi research and went to look for any interesting looking threads on internet or the ad channel. The news board was almost completely filled with new gen threads. Crucifixion to be continued. Shudders. Even the ESO board had threads like, let's try and replicate the new gen crimes in ESO. And to be honest, I was beyond sick and tired of the whole thing. Diving back into ESO, I found Grim. Neidhart. The ad channel news board is super fucking boring recently. Neidhart. They really won't shut the fuck up about new gen. Grim. Well, it is the biggest thing of note recently. Whenever a new incident like this happens, people always freak the fuck out about it. Shitstorm incarnate. Neidhart. Well, they still haven't caught the culprit? Grim. I mean, you and I both know the police are incompetent, lol. There's tons of idiots all over the web painting the culprit as some mo hot chick, lol. Neidhart, that demon girl? The desolate eyes of the girl I'd seen in the crucifixion murder scene flashed through my mind, and I felt a shiver run down my spine. As much as I didn't want to remember, that ghastly memory would come back any time I let my guard down. Wait, I'd seen the culprit's face. I knew who they were. Should I report it to the police? But I didn't want to get involved. Grim. Demon girl. Is there already an offshoot of the perp like that? That might be taking it a bit too far, to be honest. Anyway, these new gen cases are seriously interesting, dude. I've joined the Frapara new gen community. Oh, Frapara. Neidhart, you're getting way too into this. Grim. Everyone but you and Sisson from our guild has joined. Oh god, was he serious? Now I wouldn't be able to hop on and chat with my guild anymore. Grim. New gen is some weird shit, man. Gives me the chills. Neidhart. I knew you were into gory stuff, Grim, but don't tell me you're the type that looks for artistic merit in murder cases. True, the crucifixion corpse could have easily been mistaken for modern art, so it'd be fair to say that it was artistic in some sense. Grim. Nah, the only thing you should be seeking here is how lewd it is. It's like the ultimate form of BDSM. Neidhart. This guy's hopeless. I'd better do something quick. Grim. You'll get it once you leave behind your virginhood, Neidhart 10. Neidhart. You lowly bastard. Are you saying you're not a virgin? Grim. Whatever that is. What is that, a pig or something? I don't know. Yeah. Neidhart, you damn traitor. Or is he... Grim, back on the topic though. The site pulling all the info together is filled to the brim, so you really ought to take a look. I really didn't want to look. I was scared too. I wanted to escape the reality in which I'd witnessed the scene of the crime. That's why I'd been intently avoiding all info related to Nugent ever since then. I wanted to fool myself into believing that the gruesome scene I had seen had just been a delusion, whatever. But I was basically a god in ESO. Not just someone strong, but someone who knew all. Not to mention I was guild leader. It'd be beyond embarrassing if the organizer of the group couldn't keep up with the latest topics. I had to make sure that it didn't happen. I clicked the link to the site that Grim had sent me. The top of the site had the title, All Things Newgen, written in big letters right in the center of the page. This type of website was basically like a wiki. It was open to the public and anyone could enter info related to a particular topic. In the case of this Newgen site, loads of people entered info concerning Newgen and the site updated as they did. Sites like it intend to suffer from unreliable info being mixed in, as well as its fair share of vandalism from trolls, but they could still be pretty useful for getting a quick overview of an incident. Many links were pasted all over the page. I promptly clicked on the link that it read, Current Timeline. My heart raced. Just reading the site was making me nervous. My palms were slick with sweat. The first incident, dubbed the group dive, was the 5 high schoolers that had jumped to their deaths. It happened in the dead of the night on September 7th, which was about a month ago at this point. The building they jumped off of was Cornelius Tower, which was located in Shibuya. They dove off the rooftop helipad. Of course, all 5 had died instantly. According to the autopsies, the 5 all had foreign pieces of flesh under their fingernails, along with various scratch marks on their hands. Based on that, it was surmised that the 5 had been holding hands as they jumped, for one reason or another. There was no note of any form on the rooftop. A person online, one of those people acting like Snake, had actually gone to Cornelius Tower themselves and reported that the door to the rooftop had a sign on it saying, No entry to unauthorized personnel, and that it was locked practically 24/7. Naturally, the door had been locked at the time of the incident, and the key was not found among the belongings of the deceased. Essentially, the rooftop helipad had effectively been a locked room, and the method the 5 had used to enter was completely unknown. There was a very high chance that someone other than the 5 had been present at the scene of the incident. Yeah, it sounds suspicious. Sounds like some foul play was involved. The second incident, dubbed the man-child murder case, had occurred 12 days after the first incident, placing it on September 19th. Early in the morning, a university student on the way home from a karaoke session had discovered a collapsed man covered in blood by the Shibuya Station underpass. The victim was a university student residing in the Shibuya ward, a 21-year-old named Kanoe Chizuyo. He was already dead when he was discovered, but his abdomen had an unnatural, very large swelling. According to the autopsy, someone had performed an abdominal incision on the man, stuffed a newly born fetus inside the man's stomach, then stitched it back up. Moreover, a DNA test confirmed that the fetus had no blood relation to the victim. The victim was a bachelor and had no relations with any women. It was only online speculation, but it was assumed that the 32-week-old fetus had been removed from its mother body via C-section. However, the mother's identity, current whereabouts, and even whether or not she was alive was completely unknown. It was possible that the police had already discovered her whereabouts, but if they had, nothing had been publicly revealed. Yeah, it's that's a little rough. I averted my eyes from the monitor to keep myself from throwing up. Jesus Christ. Talk about nauseating. The culprit was completely insane. Maybe, just maybe, these ghastly murders had been carried out by that girl. Japan is over. I stared at Sierra-tan in an attempt to bleach my eyes. And with that, I somehow managed to stabilize my mental state. I considered taking the meds the doctor had given me, but Sierra-tan did the job nonetheless. Anyway, while that might have been necessary to maintain Neidhart's honor, reading all that gory stuff really fucking sucked. Yeah, that type of stuff can be rough.
そんなに辛いならさ、読まなくていいって。
If it's so hard, then you don't have to read it, you silly goose.
タッキーがド M ってんなら別に止めないけど。
Though, if you're a super masochist, then I won't stop you, Taki.
辛そうなタッキーは見てられないさ。
I just can't bear to see my Taki go through so much pain.
もうやめよう。楽しいことだけしてようよ。
So why don't you just stop? We can just stick to the fun things in life.
いつもみたく、私にハーハーしてもいいからさ。
You can just fap to me like you always do, silly. Oh, how wonderful and caring you are, Sierra-tan. Sierra-tan was the only one who would stay by my side. I couldn't ask for a better waifu. I rested my chin on my hands above the table, watching Sierra-tan smile as I took deep breaths. Ah, my soul had been healed. I might be able to get through a little more if I keep glancing at her as I read. And so I decided to put that into practice right away. Come to think of it, why had those two unrelated cases both been slapped with the New Gen label? Apparently, the group dive had initially been treated as a group, but after the man-child incident occurred, people online reinvestigated it and discovered the natural circumstances surrounding the scene of the crime. Rumors then began to appear, saying that the five may have actually been killed and that the label was merely a cover-up. Yeah, it sounds like it. Yeah, the case definitely sounds fishy. According to the parents and good friends of the five victims, there was no way it could have been. Then, the mass media started making connections between the two incidents, starting with where they occurred, Shibuya. Madness explodes in today's youth. The new generation madness. Sensationalist headlines like that had started popping up everywhere, to my understanding anyway. Then came the third case, the murder case I'd witnessed, dubbed the Crucifixion. The site didn't have as much info on this case, likely due to it having only occurred recently. The victim, 56-year-old Oda Hisashi, was a university professor who had been crucified with stakes to the concrete wall of a vacant house. That was all that had been publicly revealed. Many of the neighboring residents had claimed that for over an hour after the time the crime was thought to have occurred, around 8 p.m., they could hear the sound of nails being hammered into something. Even I'd heard the sound. I could hear it even now. A horrible, terrifying sound. On a related note, no connection between the third case and the group dive or the man-child had been discovered yet. But with it being the third abnormal incident to happen in quick succession in Shibuya, the crucifixion was naturally treated as another new-gen incident. The police and mass media believed that all the crimes had different culprits, but the predominant opinion online, or rather, what most of the net hoped was going on, was that the crimes either shared a single culprit or an organized group of culprits. There also were many occult-based theories whispered about online, such as that everything had begun with the earthquake from 2 months ago. 2 months ago, an earthquake with a seismic intensity of 3 occurred, with Shibuya its epicenter. Although the scale was fairly minor, there were still 8 fatalities, which became a popular topic of discussion. Come to think of it, it was true that new gen cases had begun right after the earthquake. Because of that, the new gen occultists argued that the 8 deaths in the earthquake should be counted as the first new gen incident, causing a dispute between them and the new gen mainstreamers. Regardless, the entire situation was abnormal. After all, despite the fact that 3 brutal cases had occurred in quick succession, no clues on any of their culprits had been found. And many online were waiting eagerly for a 4th case. If I wasn't directly connected to it all, I probably would have joined in on the chaos myself, posted in a few threads, made a few theories. I could have been waiting excitedly for the 4th incident at this very moment. Damn it, all these assholes were just having the time of their lives, weren't they?
犯人を早く捕まえてくれよ。
Please, just catch the culprit already. A week had passed since the crucifixion, but neither the demon girl nor the police had made any moves. If they knew I'd been at the scene of the crime, they would definitely come and question me about it, but there hadn't been any signs of that actually happening. Thank God. It looked like I wasn't going to get dragged into this after all.
あなたには予知能力がありますか？
Do you have any precognitive powers? That claim Yua had thrust at me flashed in my mind.
予知能力があるって思わなきゃ納得できないような画像データをあなたが持っていたから。
Well, right here is an unaccountable digital picture that can only be explained by precognitive powers. That's why I had to ask. Even though I had finally started to relax, that feeling of despair came flying right back in an instant. The image sent by Shogun. The data was still on my PC. Yua's claims were no more than delusions she dreamt up. Her deductions were a total stretch, not to mention logically bankrupt. While I might have ended up not asking about it in the hospital today, the idea of me doing things without remembering them was completely absurd. Utterly impossible. I mean, nothing like that had ever happened to me before. So the gory image was obviously faked.
だったらさ、
In that case,
合成だって証拠を見つけちゃえばいいさ。
you should find proof that it's fake.
あの画像解析しちゃおうよ。
So let's give the picture a little look-see. But it's so disgusting. I really don't want to look at it any more than I already have.
あの女を論破しちゃえば、タッキーはもう怯えることなく平穏な生活に戻れるんだよ。
If you destroy that bimbo's argument, Taki, you'll be able to go back to your peaceful life, don't you know? And if you do that, there will be nothing to fear no longer.
やるしかないっしょ。
So you know what you gotta do. Of course, she was exactly right. Yua had talked to me as if I were the culprit behind the crucifixion, but that wasn't true at all. I mean, I'd seen the culprit's face, as if I'd let Yua put the blame on me after that. So with a gulp, I double-clicked on the folder where the images were cached. It was the first time in 3 days that Ben Yasuji had set foot in the Shibuya police station conference room. The investigation meeting for the Maruya Macho staking homicide case had already begun, and Ben was greeted with the universal gazes of displeasure for his tardiness. Ben forced a polite smile before bending down to sit. He supposed that it was not quite the right time to reveal that he had been cooped up in the bathroom with diarrhea. Yeah. The staking homicide case had been assigned to the Shibuya police station on the morning after the incident. As they were lacking in manpower due to the Cornelius Tower mass case and the Shibuya station undergrad and fetus homicide case, even the third-rate assistant inspector, Ben, whom the Metropolitan Police Department's investigation division were practically begging to retire, had been called in by the main office. Moreover, as all the incidents had occurred within the Shibuya police station's jurisdiction, it was an unusual situation in which a single jurisdictional station was utilizing 3 special investigation teams. Because of this, operations were made quite difficult, with 3 investigation teams having access to only one large conference room that they had to alternate between. The mass media was hailing it all as one large case known as Nugent, and there were rumors that the police would combine the 3 investigation teams in order to make a Nugent investigation division, thus solving the issue of manpower. All the detectives found this prospect completely asinine, regarding it as nothing more than an absolute joke.
警部補、君の報告を。
Assistant Inspector, your report. Band Superior Inspector Matsunaga, who was in charge of the investigation team, called out to Ben with piercing gaze. But Ben did not notice this. He simply continued to cool himself down with a handheld fan as he took a moment to recuperate.
警部補、バン警部補、聞いているのか？
Assistant Inspector? Assistant Inspector Ban, are you listening to me?
呼ばれてるっすよ。バンさんの報告待ちなんすから。ちょっと。
The boss is calling you. Ban-san, he's waiting for your report. Hello? The whispers of Ban's partner, a rookie named Suwa, finally got him to realize he's being called.
すんません。報告は諏訪から。
Oh, sorry about that. Suwa will give you the report.
自分っすか？
You want me to do it?
俺がいなくても報告しとけって言っといたろうが。
I did tell you if I wasn't here, so them's the breaks.
早くしろ。
Hurry it up. Suicide as his superior jabbed him in the elbow. Then he stood up straight and tall.
犯行現場近くの監視カメラの解析がようやく出たっす。出ました。犯行時間に不審な人物が映ってました。
The analysis of the security camera footage from near the crime scene is finally finished up, or concluded. The recording shows a suspicious individual present at the scene at around the time the crime was likely committed. Murmurs echoed throughout the conference room. The relaxed atmosphere from before had turned on its head. The other detectives began to take frantic notes in order to not miss a single word of Sua's report. Considering the situation, it was no surprise they were so frantic about it. After all, 3 horrific cases had occurred within their jurisdiction in the span of a single month, only one of which was not ruled as a homicide as of yet. Their strong determination to find the culprit, even in the face of their reputations, was only natural.
プロジェクターに映像を出します。
I will show the footage on the projector. As per the instructions Ben had given them in advance, Suwa had the projector display the footage on the projector screen. The projector shone an image of the confined, filthy back alley of the Mariamacho. It was night, and there were very few streetlights present, so virtually nothing was visible.
犯行現場から約50メートル離れたところにあるコインパーキングの監視カメラです。
This is a security camera from a coin-operated parking lot located about 50 meters from the scene of the crime. The parking lot was only big enough to fit 2 vehicles. It was a tiny plot of land interposed between 2 buildings, and it was constructed without any real care as well. The scene of the crime was not visible in the footage. Not even the path leading to it could be seen. All displayed was the road that was one farther away from the crime scene. The video had no sound. The time the video had been recorded was graciously displayed on the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. 9:34 p.m.
犯行現場近隣の住民の証言により、21時過ぎから21時半頃まで釘を打ちつける音がしていたというのはご承知の通りだと思いますが、
According to the testimony of the residents near the crime scene, the sound of nails being hammered could be heard beginning from just past 9 p.m. and ending at around 9:30 p.m., which I imagine you already know.
この映像は21時34分。つまりまさに犯行時間直後ということになります。
This footage is from 9:34 p.m., which means it was recorded right after the time of the crime.
不審人物が映っているのは21時34分53秒からおよそ6秒間です。駐車場の前の道を奥から手前へと走り抜けていきます。
The suspicious individual is shown for around 6 seconds starting from 9:34:53. During that time, they run from the back of the road in front of the parking lot to the front. Immediately following Sua's explanation, a silhouette appeared on the footage. They seemed to be in a great hurry and ran from the back of the screen to the front. As the resolution was quite poor, not even their gender could be ascertained at a glance. But Ban had already gotten the crime laboratory to analyze that very point.
科捜研で解析した結果、映っている人物は男。年齢は10代後半から20代とのことっす。です。
The results of the forensic analysis show that the individual is a man, with an age estimated between late teens and early 20s.
人相の判別までは無理でした。服装がかなり特徴的ですが、これは小島にある私立水明学園の男子制服と分かりました。
It was impossible to discern their facial features. Their clothing, however, is fairly distinct, and it was discovered to be a male uniform of Suimei Private Academy, located in Shoto.
それと、右手に注目してもらいたいんですが。
Also, if you would direct your attention toward the right hand. The image enlarged on the right hand of the suspicious individual. It appeared to be grasping something.
スローで再生するとわかるが、走りながら腕を振っている際、この握りしめている何かが駐車場の照明に反射して光を放ってるんだな、これが。
Oh, now they caught him on camera. Upon playing the footage back in slow motion, we discovered that when he waves his arms while running, the light reflects from the object he's holding thanks to the lighting present in the parking lot. Now, at the good part, Ban took over Sua's explanation.
形状からして犯行に使われた十字架型の杭である可能性がある。
Judging by the shape, there's a possibility that it's the same kind of cross-shaped stake used in the crime. The detectives continued to murmur noisily. The staking homicide culprit may be a high schooler. The proposition was fairly shocking to them. After all, it meant that the New Generation Madness moniker that the mass media had been pushing could exactly become a reality.
最も犯人に近い人物がこの少年だということか。
That was actually not exactly. So the closest person we have to a suspect would be this boy, correct?
まあ、そういうことになりますね。
That would be the case indeed. Ban stroked the stubble on his jaw. It was a habit of his. Whenever he felt one step closer to cornering a culprit, he would always reach for that satisfying scraping sensation.
以上です。
That is all. With a great exhale, Sua sat down.
ひどいっすよ、先輩。美味しいところ持ってって。
You're the worst, sir. I can't believe you robbed me of the best part like that. Ignoring Sua's grumbling, Ban once again burned the image of the high school boy into his mind.
ようやく尻尾を出したんだ。そいつを掴んで離さねえようにしないとな。
So, you've finally shown yourself. Now I've just got to grab onto you and never let go. Sure enough, the image Shogun had sent was in my cache folder. 168491 JPG was its name. Obviously, a part of me was still hesitant to even look at it. I mean, it was a pretty fucking nasty image. Grotesque as all hell, too. I was sure just looking at it would throw me right back into the scene of the crucifixion, where that violent scene had taken place right in front of me. But even then, I needed to expose you as flawed logic, and therefore guarantee my own safety and innocence. Thankfully, since Sierra Tan was there for me, I could handle a little bit of gore. Mustering all of the courage I had, I double-clicked the file. God, it was so gory. But compared to the crucifixion scene I'd seen in person, it wasn't quite as bad. Telling myself that the image had to be fake, I was just barely able to stomach it. When I'd first received the image, I'd closed it immediately after looking at it once. I hadn't inspected it thoroughly. This time, holding back the urge to vomit, I decided to examine the image in excruciating detail. I didn't know much about how to tell whether a picture was fake or not, but taking a look at the shadows, seeing if there was anything off about the surrounding area, and other stuff like that, which should probably be enough. The only possibility I had in mind was that the photo had been taken in advance, and the crucifixion corpse had been put on top of it using CGI. And then, the day after Shogun had sent the picture to me, they executed the crime exactly as they had edited in the image. Thanks to the poor resolution and how dark the image was, I could only really see the stakes, leaving the identity of the victim unclear. Light was only hitting the area surrounding the corpse, yet something about the image was just begging for me to look at the crucifixion itself. I felt like that was the intent of the person who'd made it. I mean, come on. Focusing that much on the light around the corpse was kinda overkill, don't you think? Well, it wasn't like I'd been paying close attention to the actual crime scene, so I couldn't really jump to conclusions. In the picture, the demon girl wasn't standing in front of the crucified corpse. But when I opened my eyes wide and looked even closer, I noticed a silhouette and a dark spot on the left side of the image. I'd almost completely missed it. Due to the low res of the image, the shadow of the figure stood in and blended perfectly into the surrounding scenery. You could easily miss it if you weren't paying close attention. Obviously, the image was fake, but what if the person who had taken the photo had accidentally left themselves in it? If they had, it was possible they had forgotten to edit themselves out when they had tampered with the image. It looked like they were wearing a Sume uniform. In that case, it had to be the demon girl. She had been wearing one at the time of the crime, after all. But when I took a closer look, I noticed that the figure's hair was actually pretty short. The demon girl had long hair, like Yua. Alright then, time for some computer magic. I need the details here. I opened up some image processing software and dragged the image in. Then, with a big gulp, I selected the levels option in the adjustments menu and brightened the once darkened corners of the image. Huh? What the hell?
なんだこれ。
What? I don't. That's pictured on the screen. Pictured on the screen was unmistakably
僕だ。
me. How was it me? It didn't make any sense. I'd never even been there before September 29th. It was fake. It had to be fake. I couldn't find any bit of proof that it was, but it absolutely had to be. Nothing made sense otherwise. I mean, Shogun had sent me the image on the 28th, and the crucifixion murder case had occurred on the 29th. If the image was of what happened on the 29th, then that would mean it was a picture taken from the future.
あなたには予知能力がありますか？
Do you have precognitive powers?
うるさい、そんなはずはないんだ。
Fuck you. There's no way I have powers. I kicked a plastic bottle at my feet and closed the paint program. I checked the file's properties to see when it was made, and then I lost all words. The timestamp was the 28th, but that was the least of my worries now. In the comments section of the properties menu was a single inconspicuous sentence, a sentence my eyes couldn't look away from. Whose eyes are those eyes? Ugh. I slammed my hands on my keyboard before shoving it to the edge of my desk. I clutched my head.
セーラ、助けて。
Save me, Sarah. I could barely hold back my tears. What the hell had I done to deserve a whole week of nothing but more and more same bullshit? Why was I the only one that had to deal with this shit? Hang on a second. If they had somehow managed to get a photo of me, and then they'd edited it into the image of the crime scene, that would either mean Shogun had taken a photo of me without my consent, or that he had somehow obtained my photo through another source. And considering how he had suddenly entered the chat room and started talking to me right after Grim had left, he likely had been aiming for me and me alone from the very start. Shogun might very well have discovered my real identity. If that was true, then Shogun, the demon girl, anyone could raid my base at any moment, and then I'd be abducted. Felt a chill on the nape of my neck. It was the gaze again. There was something there, watching me. Don't look at me. Did you really think I'd turn around? I knew the rules of the game better than anyone. It'll take more than that to make me turn around game. Fear sent goosebumps all over my body, and I felt a strong urge to check that the door was locked. But instead of doing that, I just continued to stare at my monitor, as I was way too stubborn to let myself lose. Unable to calm down, I opened up my default word processor and wrote down everything on my mind. That has to be it. As I stared fearfully at the word demon, I began to wonder if the girl at the crime scene was actually a real demon. I mean, come on, she couldn't have been human by any means. If she was a demon, she might actually be able to see the future. And if she could see the future, projecting a scene from the future onto a picture via psychic photography would be child's play. It would line up perfectly with how she'd somehow managed to carry out the gruesome crucifixion all on her own. She had then gotten her underling Shogun to send the image to me, a person who she knew would end up accidentally witnessing the crime scene. I didn't know why she'd done that. Maybe it was a threat. This'll be you next if you tell anyone what you saw. Or maybe it was a death sentence. You're next. And if that really was what it meant, then I'm fucked.
僕は奴らにいつ殺されてもおかしくないんだ。
They could come and murder me at any moment. Kusunoki Yua faced the PC in her room, her profile gravely serious. She swiftly read through the information displayed on the monitor. Before long, Yua let out a small sigh and released her hand from the mouse, glancing at a piece of paper sitting within reach of her. It is the very same paper she had put before Nishiju Takumi the day before. The printout of the chat log between Neidhart and Shogun.
Nishijo-kun.
Nishiju-kun. Yua muttered a single name. The view of Takumi sitting alone at the Shoto Park bench appeared in her mind before she quickly shook her head to drown it out. Suddenly, she looked behind herself in surprise.
今、誰かに見られていたような。
Just now, it felt like someone was watching me. Her gaze stopped upon a large stuffed Jero froggy enshrined on her bed. Wondering if it had just been her imagination, she tilted her head in puzzlement. Then she slowly rose to her feet, walked over to her bed, and fell onto it head first. The sheets smelled of the sun. It seemed that her mother had kindly dried the futon earlier today. Yua buried her face in that relieving scent, her gaze wandering about vacantly. Her room was very neat and orderly, placing her meticulous personality on full display. This especially applied to her large bookshelf, which was rather incongruous for a room sized at around 13 square meters. It was packed tightly with countless books, leaving hardly any gaps. However, charmingly, the lower half consisted of nothing but complex academic books, computing-related books, and other similar material, contrasting greatly with the upper half, which was filled with shoujo manga and anime DVDs. With another sigh, you had turned her body face up and stared at the ceiling.
DID.
DID. Okay. She muttered the name of the mental illness she had just been researching. An explanation related to it was still displayed on her monitor. I wonder... You'd think it might be that, but you would have to...
辛いんですね。
It must be so hard. Yua hugged the stuffed Jero froggy by her pillow tightly as she thought about Takumi.
でも、私、
But However, her expression soon vanished, replaced only by a gritting of her teeth. It hurt to breathe. All I was doing was looking things up on my PC, yet it hurt to breathe. I could feel my heart pounding harder than it ever had before. And of course, the feeling that something was watching me would not go away. I was still just barely keeping myself from turning around, but I knew I couldn't do it for much longer. What the fuck is wrong with you? Show yourself, asshole. I cried out angrily at whatever it was. Surely it wasn't the demon girl, right? God, what if it was? She could be using the second sight or clairvoyance or some other demonic power to spy on me. The chills on the back of my neck were gradually growing stronger, to the point where they were getting slightly painful, like jolts of electricity coursing through my body. I was covered from head to toe in sweat. The front of my t-shirt was completely soaked. Damn it! Unable to take it anymore, I whipped around in my chair as forcefully as I could, and yet, all I saw was my room, in the same condition as always. I didn't see a single thing that shouldn't have been there. How are you not there? Who are you? With a yell that was closer to a shriek than anything, I burst up from my chair and went to make sure the door was locked. Much to my relief, it was. I wiped away the sweat on my forehead with my sleeve. Returning my PC, I focused on the monitor once more. It was still displaying what I had been researching earlier, precognition. When when I was a kid, I truly believed that precognition existed, that psychics existed, and if I was being completely honest, I still did to a degree. That was why my first thought had been that the image from Shogun and the demon girl was a precognitive photograph, a thought which only drove me to look into it all the more. What if, maybe, just maybe, there were tons of psychics all over the world, and I just didn't know? Back when I was a kid, when that bus accident happened, I managed something that had been pretty close to precognition. For that reason, I couldn't completely rule out its existence. But no matter how much I searched, all I could find was extremely dubious articles about the occult, voodoo shit, or whatever else. There was absolutely nothing that proved scientifically whether it existed or not.
一つぐらいあってもいいだろう。
There has to be at least something. Growing increasingly frustrated, I violently tapped away at the keyboard. Couldn't deal with how anxious not having a concrete answer made me. Was the world really telling me to give up? To wait here, trembling in fear of demons that might or might not come? I couldn't stay sane like that. I would have vastly preferred to learn that precognition didn't exist, but regardless of what the truth was, I needed to know it badly. Pretty much out of options, I decided to take a look at the Ed Channel's occult board. The place was typically home to nothing but total BS noise, lies and misinformation, mainly, but it actually had some pretty mind-blowing and even useful information scattered on it sometimes. Biting back how frantic I was, I opened up the Ed Channel. Then, I clicked on the occult board and gave precognition a search. And when I did...
Huh?
New Gen. Huh? My search pulled up a surprising number of threads, about 30 of them. Was precognition a hot topic on that channel at the moment? With a gulp, I checked the thread titles one by one.
Phantasm FES?
Phantasm? FES? Most of the threads contain those two keywords. In addition, New Gen discussion had also wormed its way in, with lots of unsettling terms like prophetic lyrics and murderer being used. Having never heard of Phantasm before, I went to Google them. Apparently, they were a Shibuya-based 4-piece gothic punk band that had been doing live concerts recently. They were so popular, in fact, that they were completely dominating the indie music scene, with a female vocalist known only as FES. Anyway, to check whether it was related to precognition or not, I clicked on the thread at the top titled Precognition and Prophecies, Phantasm General, New Gen, 43, gave the contents a brief skim. Anonymous prophet. Call me tits, but yeah, let's go. I'll go to the concert Sunday. Those who do will enjoy FES Sama's Black Mass without letting any of it go to waste. Miss out and you'll be getting the crucifixion treatment. Laugh my fucking ass off. I read the lyrics, but it still feels like a stretch. The rephrasing is vague as shit. There's no way any are actual prophecies. If I'm wrong though, have mercy on me, crucifixion killer. LOL. Calling it precognition or a prophecy or whatever the fuck it is, taking it way too far. Laugh my ass off. This isn't Nostradamus, so how about we just sit back and enjoy the music for what it is? FES's stuff ain't bad lyrically, but I def can feel the New Gen connection, to be honest. Everyone always talks about FES. Rip the composer, Rio. Poor guy's getting no credit. Fest 10, Huff Huff. Fest 10's lyrics force me to find the meaning of life. It's a trap. Festards are total shitters, to laugh my ass off. Well, to be honest, I want to be insulted by Fessama and the chill voice of hers while she grinds her boots in my ass over and over until it feels like my eyes are going to fall out of their sockets. It would feel so intoxicating to stop on the edge right at the last moment. So erotic as I wonder if she'll spit on my face or not. No matter what you think, I want Fess to just take a knife and my life. I want to breathe my last breath as she says to me, "You're an eyesore." Damn. Festan was my waifu. Take that to the BDSM thread. Also, Fest is my waifu, actually. Stop bumping this shit. This is what you guys mean by new gen prophecy stuff? O servant, revealed by the light of the moonlit night, connect the phantasmal paths which lead to this place. Little do they know, their screams will soon turn to silence, and repose shall fall upon us as we link hand in hand within the wind. By the way, I say fuck Phantasm. Like, laugh my ass off, their fans are terrifying. You'd think they were all brainwashed. Oh, well, now you're gonna get it. Don't leak the lyrics, dumbass. What a brainless troll. Those lyrics. Depending on how you interpreted them, they could be seen as referring to the group dive. And yet, those lyrics had been released 2 months ago, which meant they hadn't been written after the group dive.
これが予知ってこと？
Is this precognition? Yeah, that does kind of sound like it could be linked to the dive. Could it just be a coincidence? Or could Phantasm be yet another one of the Demon Girl's underlings? I read the thread in more detail, only to find out that each one of the 3 new gen incidents had all been prophesied by Phantasm lyrics. However, the lyrics for the songs that supposedly prophesied the man-child and crucifixion incidents had not been posted on @channel. Apparently, uploading them online was viewed as a taboo of sorts. The philosophy seemed to be, if you really want to know, just go to the concerts and buy an album yourself. Regardless, there were a great number of people online trying to predict the next new gen case based on the songs Phantasm had performed thus far. And apparently, ever since new gen kicked off, Phantasm's albums had been completely selling out. They had been so successful, in fact, that even the mainstream media had picked up on it. Gothic band boasting cult following rises among the youth of Shibuya. News stories like that were popping up all over the place. The one writing the lyrics was the head singer, Fess. Nobody knew her real name. What if Fess was actually the Demon Girl? If she was, it would explain how she'd managed to prophesize the incidents literal months before they occurred. The Demon Girl was the culprit after all. I tried doing an image search, but I couldn't find any good photos of her face. All the pictures were taken by phones during her concerts, and they were so blurry that I couldn't even begin to make out her face.
So.
Shit. I wiped my sweat-drenched forehead with the hem of my shirt. I was frustrated. I was scared. I couldn't believe anything. I didn't even want to see anything. Several emotions swirled within me, suffocating me. My breath hadn't even come close to stabilizing this entire time. But even so, I knew one thing for certain. I needed to see Fess's face. With trembling fingers, I typed in Phantasm's name, and I clicked on their official website. The site was mostly black, decorated only by a text of uniform deep crimson color. It was unrelenting in its simplicity, yet it felt so incredibly eerie and strange. There was barely anything on the site at all, just basic information on their concerts and discography. There wasn't even a single image. There were no profiles on the band members, nor anything on their song lyrics.
やっぱり犯人だけあってネットに顔写真が流出しないようにしてるのか。
Well, if they were the culprit, they wouldn't want their face on the internet anyway. Talk about thorough. Took a look at their performance schedule and saw that they were typically performed about every other week. Their next concert was
あさって。
the day after tomorrow. If I went to it, I'd be able to check whether Fess was the demon girl or not. But even if I did find out they were the one and the same, what would I even do? Report Fess to the police? Cry and beg for her to leave me alone? Bring her crucifix and attempt to mock exorcism? Yeah, none of those were gonna happen. I was up against a demon. There was no way in hell an otaku freak like me could come out on top. Problem is, if I didn't, I'd die. She transformed my corpse into her newest art piece, and I'd be posted on the All Things New Gen site as yet another case.
そんなのやだ!
Fuck that. But if I didn't do something, I'd never find out what that picture of me that Shogun had sent me really meant. And on the off chance that Fess wasn't connected to the demon girl, maybe I could ask her to help me fight against whoever the demon girl actually was.
だけどやっぱり無理だ。ライブなんて行けるわけがない。
Like that's ever gonna happen. I'd never survive going to a concert. I'd never been to one in my life. That sort of thing was infinitely beyond my comfort zone. Not to mention concert halls were cramped, dark, noisy, crowded. Just imagining a place like that made me want to hurl. I was at my wit's end. I had no idea what to do. The chills on the back of my neck still hadn't gone away, and the painful, prickling sensation suddenly turned into a burning one. I looked behind me yet again, but like always, nobody was there.
もうやめてよ。
Just stop, please. I closed my eyes tightly, focusing on nothing other than waiting for the gaze to disappear. I didn't want to go through this torment for the rest of my life. For all I knew, the gaze would straight up kill me someday.
考えろ、匠。
Think, Takumi.
僕にできることを考えろ。
What can I do? Think. Hiding in the shadow of a telephone pole, I looked at the gigantic concert hall from afar. After agonizing over it all day yesterday, I had somehow managed to nut up and did what needed to be done. So here I was, Gigantus. It was located on a narrow street in Shibuya, beneath the elevated railroad tracks. It had a very distinct red brick exterior. The exterior was lit up too, giving off an old-fashioned austere vibe that made it feel as if I'd been transported back in time to the 50s or something. To think that a spot like this was in Shibuya of all places. I'd had no idea it even existed until yesterday. It was only 5 minutes from the station on foot, yet there weren't very many people at all. Every once in a while, a train would pass over the elevated tracks with a tremendous roar, and the telephone pole I was hiding behind would tremble slightly, but that was about it. Just a moment ago, there had been a bunch of what appeared to be Phantasm fans in front of the Gigantus. Some of them were wearing outfits so out there, I'd almost mistaken them for cosplayers. However, what surprised me the most was that there honestly weren't that many of them. Despite being such a huge topic online, there must have been no more than 100 people there. Regardless, they were all inside the building now. The concert had already begun, but since none of the audio managed to bleed outside, it certainly didn't feel like it. My heart palpitations had gone away after I'd fallen asleep yesterday, but they'd come back with a vengeance the second I'd arrived in front of the venue. It'd been so hard to breathe, I almost thought I was dealing with some kind of heart failure. But really, I knew exactly why it was so bad. This place was filled with a thick, impenetrable darkness. The demon girl and her underlings could be lurking around any corner. Knowing that, I'd been on the lookout for anyone that might attack me ever since I got here. The sheer anxiety and paranoia was comparable to what it felt like going through the Juan's Volcano dungeon in ESO. Mobs in the Juan's Volcano dungeon were OP as hell, and it was surrounded by the kind of lava that insta-killed you if you so much as clipped it with your pinky toe. This shit could have been play tested. The amount of times I died there, holy hell. I wiped the sweat off my forehead with a hand towel and gulped down a gob of saliva. Right as I did, the door at the top of the stairs opened, and the furious beating of drums reverberated from inside the Gigantus for a few seconds. A single guy exited from the door. He jogged nimbly down the stairs and then toward me.
Yo, Taku. Matta ka?
Hi. Sup, Taku? Been waiting long? I invited Misumi-kun to go to the venue with me. As I didn't know his phone number, I'd been forced to go to school today just to ask him to go. If he hadn't come with me, I probably wouldn't have even made it this far. And even if I'd somehow forced myself to go into the building alone, if the demon girl was there, it would be a certified game over. So I had Misumi-kun operate as a scout. I did feel bad about throwing him into the line of fire, so I obviously hadn't told him about that part. Yeah, good choice. The only people I could rely on were him and Nanami, so I picked the less annoying of the two, Misumi-kun. I even covered his ticket cost, so in a sense, you could say I had hired him for 1,000 yen.
ほらよ、これ CD な。俺自分の分も買っちまったよ。
Right. Here's your CD. I grabbed one for myself, too. Misumi-kun handed me a Phantasm album. They were being sold for an outrageous premium in online auctions, but I'd heard on @channel that they were also available at the concerts, so I'd asked Misumi-kun to buy one for me. Now that I had one, I'd achieved half the goals I'd set out for myself. As for the remaining half,
いやー、予想以上にいいな、ファンタズムって。
Honestly, though, they're way better than I thought they'd be. Phantasm, I mean. Sumi-kun had been acting pretty excited ever since he had exited the venue.
俺あんまミーハーになりたくなかったんで聞こうとしなかったんだけどよ。今日ちょっと生で聞いただけでファンになっちまった。
Never really listened to him before, cause you know me, I'm no sheep. Besides, I figured they were overhyped, but just that little bit I heard just now was enough to make me a real fan. The other thing I'd asked Masumi-kun to report was anything in particular that stood out about the band members. I knew they would all come out on stage once the concert started, so all I wanted them to do was a quick scan, then head back to me right after. And yet, despite my very specific instructions, he hadn't come back for a full 5 minutes after the show started. This was probably because he'd listened to the entirety of the first song.
特にボーカル。ありゃマジでいい女だぜ。
Dude, the singer? Fine ass woman right there.
お前、女見る目あるな。
You've got some good taste, my man. I sighed internally, thinking with the wrong head like usual. Why was I even surprised? So much for I'm no sheep.
どんな人だった？
What'd she look like?
ああ、そっか。報告な。なんか探偵みてえで面白いな。そう思わねえ？
Alright, the report. I dig this, by the way. Kind of feels like I'm a detective or some shit, you know? Masumi-kun grinned to himself, and I pressed him again to tell me about Fessa's appearance.
髪型はショートカットだった。
Well, for starters, she had short hair.
え？
Huh? And just like that, there was already a huge discrepancy. Did that mean Fess wasn't the demon girl? No, wait. I can't let myself jump to conclusions here. She could have cut her hair, or she could have used hair extensions, or she could have changed it in some other way. It wouldn't surprise me if she'd been in disguise when I'd seen her at the crime scene.
スタイルがすっげえ良くて、あと背が高かったな。ありゃ俺と同じぐらいはあるんじゃねえの？
She had the hottest bod, real hourglass type shit. She was tall too, maybe even the same height as me.
背が？
She's tall? And the same height as you? Sumi-kun and I were about the same height, which meant Fess was probably around 170 centimeters tall. Pretty tall for a girl. But I hadn't gotten that impression at all when I'd encountered the demon girl. My memories from back then were hazy, but I still felt like the demon girl had been shorter than me. Yet another thing that didn't line up. Then...
他には？
Anything else?
そうだな。アンニュイな雰囲気してたな。
Oh, yeah. She had this real aloof vibe to her. Too cool for school type thing.
声はクールってイメージかな。結構ボソボソと喋るタイプだった。
The way she spoke had a big part in that. She's the kind of girl to talk in whispers.
胸のサイズはまあまあ。
As for the tits, she doesn't have much going on.
でもゴスパンの服は妙な色気があったぜ。ああいうのもありだな。断然あり。
But that goth outfit more than made up for it. It was crazy how hot it was. Not bad at all. Not bad at all. Oh, God damn it. Every single word he said was completely fucking useless. Then again, I'd only gotten a quick look at the demon girl, so I couldn't exactly list her features. This plan was probably doomed from the start.
っていうかよ、そんなにフェスに興味あるなら自分の目で見ればいいじゃねえか。ほら、行こうぜ。
But anyway, since you're so interested in Fess, you really ought to take a look for yourself. Let's hit it.
え？
Huh? Masumi-kun began to push me from behind, forcing me up the stairs to the Gargantus. I desperately tried to fight back, but Masumi-kun was stronger than me. I couldn't get away. Wait,
見たいんだろフェスの顔を。素直になるって。
you want to see Fest's face, right? Come on, be honest.
浮気ってのは男の差がだよな。タクも大人になったもんだぜ。
Fooling around with another chick's a big part of a man's life. Taku, my boy, you're finally becoming a man.
は
What?
この前一緒に帰ってたメガネの子のことは今夜だけは気にすんなって。俺も田中のことは忘れるからよ。
Just pretend that the glasses girl you went home with the other day doesn't exist. I'll be forgetting about Tanaka tonight myself. What the hell is he talking about? I tried to stand my ground and fight back, but to my horror, I realized that I was already at the top of the stairs. While it was only the second floor, if I were to slip and fall, it would hurt like hell. Just the thought made me stop resisting as hard. And in that moment of weakness, my entire body weight was sent crashing through the door and into the venue. The second I hit the inside, the explosion of sound blasted my eardrums. I'd never experienced something so loud before. Even the pit of my stomach was being forcibly shaken by the vibrations. It was so intense, it felt as if my entire body was being crushed to pieces. There were no seats in the venue. Everyone was standing up to watch. They were all rocking their bodies in rhythm with each other, shouting "Fest, Fest, Fest," as their fists shot up and down. Still nowhere near the level of Otoge performance though. Otoge? I don't know. The heat was devastating. It made me want to vomit. I might have been an otaku, but I was definitely not the type to obsess over idols or voice actors. Honestly, I hated this kind of atmosphere. I could tell I stuck out like a sore thumb, but thankfully, nobody was paying any attention to me. There were so many people in front of me, I could barely see the stage at the far end of the room. Just the blinding stage lights and faint figures of 4 people standing under them. And I was getting overwhelmed by everything happening around me. And Sumi-kun handed me a plastic cup of soda. Seemed like Sumi-kun paid for my ticket too. I'd have to make sure to pay him back later. Before I knew it, the song was over. The audience clapped and cheered. Then, having seemingly calmed down a little, everyone brought down their fists. Thanks to that, the road to the stage finally opened up, and I was able to see it clearly. I got a good look at the short-haired girl standing in the middle of the stage. She was definitely not the demon girl.
今日はいつもより調子いいわ。
Your tune is better than usual today.
声がクリアに聞こえる。
I can hear your voices clearly.
世界がとても澄んでいる。
The world is very translucent. The voice coming through the amp sounded nothing like the demon girl that had said those cryptic words to me. Misumi-kun was right. Fest definitely had an aloof vibe to her. Despite her short hair, she didn't feel boyish. She gave off the mysterious aura with a mix of charm, allure, and a hint of distance. And to top it all off, the silver accessories she was wearing all glittered fantastically as they reflected the light. It felt like I was starting to understand why there were so many threads about her on the ad channel. In this kind of concert, I'd always thought that the band members would be more energetic, but Fess seemed incredibly indifferent during the intermission. She was pretty much the exact opposite of the excited audience. Maybe that was just the type of person she was. But it seemed like the audience wasn't surprised by that. They just stayed silent during the break, listened closely to Fess's words.
呼吸と性の門が閉じているからかもしれない。
Perhaps it is that the gate to Cactus has been closed. Sorry, what? Cactus? What language was she even speaking?
世界の均衡は大いなる意志が生まれてから数千年間保たれていた。
The world's equilibrium has been maintained for millennia, since the birth of the greater will.
でも今、それは崩れつつある。とても不安定。
However, now it is crumbling. It is so very unstable.
だから、私は歌うわ。
And thus, I shall sing.
君たちのカオスを受け入れてあげる。
I shall accept your chaos. Oh, I guess they were a goth punk band, so the band members probably had characters that they played. Maybe it was an easy way to win over the hearts of fans. Just spout some random nonsense that hinted that it might mean something, giving it enough mystique to keep people engrossed. Gross. Speaking of mystique, Fess was holding something strange in her hand. In her left hand was a plain old mic, but in the other, she was holding some sort of weirdly shaped mic stand. It looked kinda like a sword. It was shaped so elegantly, it felt sinister. It looked so sharp that if you even so much as grazed it, it would slice your finger in two. It was huge too, as tall as Fess, in fact. There were also lines of glass embedded into it, which glowed with an ominous blue light. I couldn't tell if it was really a sword or not, but either way, it wasn't half bad as a character accessory. No complaints there. I was strangely captivated by it. Then, using only her right arm, Fess casually lifted the huge mic stand. And with an underhand grip, she swung it sideways. The blue light from the glass drew a wide arc with its afterglow. What the hell? That was so dangerous. What if it hit someone in the crowd? That wasn't a mic stand. Could it be a sword? And every night, she would use it to cut the throats of some poor audience member, harvesting blood to offer to the demon girl or something. So was this concert actually some sort of black mass organized by a bunch of witches? A fierce chill ran down my spine just thinking about it. Goosebumps covered my entire body. I should really get out of here ASAP, but the moment I thought that, Fess let out a gentle whisper.
次は3曲目。
Up next, our third song of the night is
密教の首飾り。
The Necklace of Vajranya? I don't know. The crowd let out a huge cry of joy upon hearing that. A moment later, the members of Phantasm all started playing, and a second flood of the sound poured into my ears. A thunderous roar came from the speakers, a roar that felt like it was going to blow my eardrums. How had these people not gone deaf yet? Hanging out in places like this all the time? Looking to my side, I noticed Masumi-kun was fully into it, pumping his fists in sync with the rest of the audience. The intro ended, Fess began to sing, and when I heard the lyrics, I swallowed hard. She was singing a prophetic song that had been posted all over Ad Channel. It was a dark piece that didn't feel the slightest bit optimistic. Even its melody felt like a religious psalm, and the lyrics definitely didn't help. Everyone was getting riled up at first, but as the song went on, the excitement dropped further and further. By the end, everyone just stood there, not saying a word. But that was because everyone was fully lost in the sound. Some of them just stared at Fess, completely entranced. There was definitely something about Fess's singing voice that captivated people. Even as I battled fear and nausea in the middle of the crowd, I found myself listening very closely to her song, not wanting to miss it. Goosebumps sprang up all over me. For a moment, it felt like the air itself had frozen over. The song ended. Fess was looking down at the stage, swaying her body from side to side as she soaked in the last echoes of the music. And then, she suddenly looked back up. Without even gazing around for a second, she instantly looked at me. She seems kind of iffy, so I'm going to, I mean, I doubt there's anything going on with her really, but I'm going to go with the paranoia. And it wasn't like she just glanced in the general direction of my eyes, or like she briefly made eye contact with me or anything like that. Fess was blatantly looking right at me. And I'd even go as far to say as she was staring at me, fixedly, as if evaluating my existence, as if searching deep within my heart. Her gaze was all too intense, and yet, somehow, she seemed a little sad. I wonder what this is going to be like. Before I knew it, I was slowly walking on a rooftop, all alone. The wind was extremely strong, blowing raindrops into me from the side. What was strange, though, was that I didn't feel cold. I remembered this place. Felt like I'd been there many times before. Oh, I knew where it was now. This dreary scene surrounded by a fence. It was the school rooftop. I took a look around me. But the rain had made everything so hazy, I couldn't make out anything. It was surreal. Felt like the world itself had become blurred. Beyond the haze, on the other side of the fence, was Fess. She was standing there facing me. She was soaking wet. She was looking straight at me, just like at the concert. And in her right arm, just like before, she was gripping that sword-like mic stand tightly. The wind blowing from below sent Fess's soaked hair fluttering furiously in the air. If she even slightly lost her balance, she would definitely fall. And at this height, that would be a death sentence. Just looking at her made me stop dead in my tracks. And yet, despite where she was, Fess stood tall, without the slightest hint of fear in her eyes. Ugh. On the verge of tears, Fess gently extended her left hand toward me. Let's jump off together. It was almost as if she was asking me to go with her, trying to seduce me. Ugh. I couldn't give any response. I had no idea what to do. Fess said nothing back to me either. She just spread her arms out wide, taking a pose as if she'd been crucified. Suddenly, the rain and the wind stopped. I tried to say something, but I couldn't make a sound. Nothing would come out of my mouth. Fess's body slowly tilted backward. Everything seemed to be happening in slow motion. I tried to reach out toward Fess. But my own movements were in slow motion too, so I could only look on in frustration as my arms slowly extended out in front of me. Fess was already closing her eyes, and not long after, her figure disappeared from my line of sight. God, that's depressing. I've been getting lost in my own delusions as usual, but it all gone south pretty quickly. Well, that just goes to show how strong the aura Fess gave off truly was. She sort of had this sense of ruinous beauty to her. That said, I didn't have the slightest fucking clue what ruinous beauty was supposed to mean though. LOL. Okay. Soz? Laugh my ass off? I don't know. And then, I got sick from the size of the crowd at the concert, so I had to rush to leave the venue. As a result, I'd barely watched any of the performance at all, and honestly, I'd never wanted to go ever again. Well then, I guess I'll log on to ESO or something. That ought to rid me of this depression. To me, ESO was my life. It was my happy place, a breath of fresh air that let me forget all about the real world. As long as I could immerse myself in ESO, I could forget about all my troubles. I could stop being me and instead wander Baselard into Neidhart. But today, for some reason, Neidhart was a little off. Yes, I knew that he relied entirely on my inputs and my decisions, but somehow, I found myself struggling to pull off things I could normally do with my eyes closed. This game was supposed to be a breath of fresh air, but today, the more I played it, the more irritated I got. What the fuck, dude? I'm gonna fucking delete you, I swear to God. I knew it was all my fault, but I still took all my anger out on Neidhart. Damn it! I'm so fucking pissed off. Shit. I yanked my hair and kicked at a bare steel wall. Having let out all my anger, I took a deep breath and sat back down in my chair. I stared vacantly at my monitor. Neidhart was just standing there, facing toward the gates of the city, Shangri-Lu, free of my control. He was back facing towards me, just as it always was when I fought enemies, and of course, he was at the maximum level. I wonder what level I am. Had the human known as Nishuju Takumi leveled up even slightly since he had started playing Yasuo? No. Since he'd been born? If I had, then why was I still so bad at talking to people, even though I was nearly an adult? Why was I borderline shut-in? If I didn't log in as Neidhart for weeks, would he also turn into a shut-in like me? Whose eyes are those eyes? I suddenly remembered those words as I stared at Neidhart's back. I was mildly interested in what Neidhart would do when I wasn't controlling him, so I figured I'd observe him for a little bit more. I left my keyboard alone as I ate some chips.
もしナイトハルトに自我があるとしたら
If Neidhart had his own ego, then surely he'd waltz right into the city of Shangri-La, wind blowing against his shoulders, right? He was the hero everyone worshipped, after all.
Ne, ナイトハルト。僕はいつでもお前を見てるんだぞ。
Hey Neidhart, I'm always looking at you, you know?
お前はそれに気づいてるの？
You aware of that? Oh dang, I was gonna go positive. Whoops. And then I messed up. Without me even touching the keyboard, Neidhart, who had been standing with his back to me, suddenly turned towards me. Or so it felt. LOL.
なんつって。
Like that ever happened? In the end, I'd stared vacantly at the monitor for over an hour, but Neidhart stayed completely still the entire time. I'll tell you exactly what happened. I reluctantly decided to go to school today, but before I knew it, I found myself going to buy a phone with my little sister. I'm sure you don't understand what I'm saying, but I don't really understand it either. I thought I was going insane.
お兄、何ブツブツ言ってんの？
Huh? What are you mumbling about, big bro?
それよりほら、この機種はどうかって聞いてるんだけど。
Well, either way, I asked you what you think of this one, so what do you think? I think I want to go home. Besides, how many times do I have to tell you that I don't need a cell phone? God, it hurts having a sister that's brain dead. When I'd gotten to school today, Nanami had made her assault right into my classroom. After happily saying, "Wow, you actually came to school today?" she ordered me to go out and buy a phone with her once school is over. Once the bell rang, I tried to escape without her noticing, but I'd forgotten how quick Nanami was on her feet. So after being chased and easily caught up to, I found myself being dragged all the way to the front of the station. I didn't want to go anywhere near the station. It felt like that the whole way there. Even now, I already felt like I was gonna throw up. Nanami, though, not giving a damn about what I felt, was busy admiring the many different models on display in front of the store. I tried to wrap my head around why exactly Nanami was so insistent about me getting a phone, but I guess I got a headache instead.
これ、色が結構可愛いじゃん。いいと思うな。
Here, look at this one. Isn't it such a cute color? You should get this one. Since she was asking for my opinion, I gave a simple reply.
それっていい？
That's fine.
でもな、お兄にはちょっと可愛すぎかも。似合わなさそう。
Actually, it might be a bit too cutesy for you. It doesn't really fit you, you know? See, it didn't even matter what I said. That would have happened regardless. I'd completely lost track of how many times I'd said that's fine by this point. She would ask for my opinion, but she didn't actually intend to listen to it. This was exactly why 3D girls sucked so much ass.
お兄、大丈夫？やっぱり人の多さにやられちゃった？
Is everything okay, big bro? Are the crowds getting to you?
マクディで休もうか？
How about we take a break at McD? McD? The fucking prime hangout spot for DQNs? That place was hell incarnate. I violently shook my head no.
そっか。じゃあなるべく早めに決めるね。でもちょっと迷っちゃっててさ。
Gotcha. We'll hurry up and pick one out then. Problem is, I'm still mixed between this one and this one. I sighed, deciding to just leave Nanami behind and go home. While Nanami intensely examined the array of cell phones, I took my chance to slip away. Right as I turned toward 107, I saw something so strange. It stopped me dead in my tracks. What was that? Across the crowds of people, on the stairs to 107, stood a girl that stuck out like a sore thumb. She was holding a sword? The color and aura it gave off felt somewhat similar to the mic stand Fess had been using at the concert. In fact, I'd say it was perfectly fair to think of them in the same vein. But even then, it was still one massive sword. It might have been even longer than Fess's mic stand. To my surprise, the girl was wearing a Sume uniform. I couldn't make out her face from this distance, but despite holding something so conspicuous, the girl seemed relaxed as could be. She simply watched the people walk down the street from atop the stairs. Talk about bravery. I was seriously impressed. I couldn't believe she was walking around right smack in the middle of Shibuya with that massive toy sword. Must have had one hell of a humiliation fetish. Was the sword a cosplay prop from some new anime? Then again, I was pretty familiar with all the anime that were airing. Was there really a series with a sword like that? Had it slipped under my radar? Of course, walking around Shibuya holding one would be too much for me, but the sword itself was pretty damn cool. I kinda wanted to get one, honestly. I wonder if I could get one in Akaba. Even better if I could order it online.
Oni!
Big bro. I was suddenly struck with an elbow to the back. The pain almost made me black out and collapse on the spot. I turned around to find Nanami with her hands on her hips, sullen as could be. It's funny, the music attached to her.
もしかして逃げようとした？
Were you trying to run away from me?
確かにナナが選ぶのに時間かけすぎたのは悪いと思うけどさ。
I know it took way too long to decide. I'm sorry for that, but...
だからってナナを置き去りにして逃げようとするなんてひどいよ。
That doesn't mean you can just go and leave me behind. Do you realize how mean that is? I lazily shook my head from side to side.
お兄のバカ！携帯の電磁波の浴びすぎで腎臓を悪くして死んじゃえ！
You big jerk. I hope your phone hits you with so many EM waves that you die in kidney failure. The fuck was her deal?
一生懸命お兄のために選んであげてたナナがバカみたいじゃん。
Now I feel like an idiot trying so hard to pick the right phone for you.
こうなったらもう適当に決める。 お兄なんてナナと同じ機種で十分だよ。
So I'm not even gonna try anymore. The same model as mine is good enough for a jerk like you. Nanami forcefully grabbed my arm.
本気で今日契約するんだからね。それまで絶対逃がさない。
I'll make sure you sign the contract today if it's the last thing I do. And until that phone's in your hands, you're not going anywhere.
わかったよ。話せよ。
I get it already. Let go of me.
分かったならさっさと来て。
Okay, then hurry up and move your butt. I didn't have a clue why Nanami had gotten so worked up. She was really a pain in the ass. In the end, Nanami picked out a model with ease, as if she hadn't just spent 10 years trying to choose. After spending around an hour on the contract and other technical stuff, I tried to finally head back home with my phone, but Nanami stopped me.
ナナが初期設定してあげるからマグディやろ。
I'll set up your phone for you, so why don't we stop by McD? Without waiting for a response, she grabbed me by the back of my collar and started dragging me to the nearest McD against my will.
どうせお兄、携帯持って帰っても電源入れずにほったらかしにするに決まってるんだから。
Knowing you, you'll just tuck your phone into a random corner of your room without even bothering to turn it on.
ナナがちゃんと使えるようにしてあげる。
So, I'll make things nice and easy for you. Damn it. How much longer was she planning to hold me hostage? And out of all the places she could have chosen to do it in, why McD? McD's nuts. Inside the Shibuya McD was an embodiment of chaos. There were shitloads of people, and none of them ever shut the hell up. The sheer number of DQNs was off the chart. At the table right next to us sat 3 DQN tier mothers with dyed brown hair. And to make things even better, they'd brought their kids with them. They just left their children, 3 little crotch goblins with red highlights, to be specific, to run around the restaurant squealing their heads off, and instead of controlling them, they just kept on chanting away. At a different table was yet another group of DQNs, this time made up of 4 high school guys, all laughing like obnoxious pricks. Next, 2 high school girls complete with baggy socks and dyed brown hair sat opposite to each other, hyper-focused on their phones. They didn't even bother talking. Beside them was a snoring middle-aged businessman slumped down on his table, making it pretty obvious that he was skipping out on work. But what really made me double take was the table close by with a group of 5 elementary schoolers, some boys, some girls. They all sat there with their little school bags on the floor, happily chatting it up with each other as their legs swung back and forth beneath the table. So, considering that it was a co-ed, was it a mixture? It was, wasn't it? Weren't they elementary schoolers? Well, regardless. The point is that as far as the eye could see, there were groups of people that I avoided like the plague. Nami had no problem at all relaxing at a place like this. Me, on the other hand, just setting foot in here only served to make my headache and nausea 1,000 times worse. Wait, why the hell did I have to play along with my sister and stay here in the first place?
ねえねえ、着信メロディーはどうする？なんか希望ある？
Hey, what are you gonna do for your ringtone? You got anything in mind? Without even looking in my direction, Nanami played around with my phone as she prodded me for an answer.
アニソン。
Pick an anime song.
却下。
Overruled.
そんなだからお兄はオタクさんなんだよ。
This is exactly why everyone calls you a nerd. You're the one asking me what I prefer. Come on, it's my phone, so at least let me pick what I want.
あ、そうだ。大村彼らの新曲にしたら？あれすっごくいい曲だよ。最近のナナのお気に入り。
Oh, I know. How about we use that new Omura Carrera song? It's one of my jams. It's so good.
それこそ却下だ。
Yeah, no. That's overruled.
うん、まあ、お兄に大村彼らは似合わないか。
Yeah, I guess you're right. You're not really an Omura Carrera kind of guy anyway. Haha. After showing how little she actually cared about what I thought, Nanami took a bite of one of her french fries. I should probably mention that this bitch asked for a fish sandwich combo before dinner, one that I had to pay for. I, meanwhile, was feeling so garbage that my appetite was long gone. Piece of shit sister spoiling her appetite and mine. Fucking bullshit.
あ、そうそう。それとね。
Oh yeah, aside from that, for whatever reason, Nanami placed her bag on her lap and started digging through its contents.
お、あったあった。
Where'd I put it? Oh, here it is. Then, she probably took out...
ゲロカエルンの不良品。
defective Garo Froggy?
不良品じゃないよ。
It's not defective.
先週出たギョロリゲロカエルン。
It's the goggling Garo Froggy that came out last week.
は？
The what?
知らないんだ。やっぱ遅れてるな、お兄は。
You didn't know? You really do live under a rock.
ゲロカエルンって毎週金曜日に新作が発売されてるんだよ。
They release a new Garo Froggy every Friday.
もう全部で12種類ぐらいあるんだから。
They've made 12 different ones so far. Seriously? Was there really enough demand for weekly releases?
ナナが携帯につけてるのは最初に出た普通のゲロカエルンでしょ？
The one I have on my phone is the first one, the ordinary Garo Froggy.
で、次がデブッチョゲロカエルンで、その次がカクカクゲロカエルン。
After that was the fatty Garo Froggy, then the rugged Garo Froggy. Without skipping a beat, Nanami recited the names of the various Garo Froggies.
第4弾がのっぺらゲロカエルンで、第5弾が輝くゲロカエルン。
Fourth was the smooth Garo Froggy. Fifth was the shining Garo Froggy.
第6弾が一番人気があって、猫ゲロカエルンっていうの。
And sixth was the most popular, the cat Garo Froggy. Garo.
その後が幽霊ゲロカエルン、眠るゲロカエルン、燃えるゲロカエルン、ゾンビゲロカエルン、酔っ払いゲロカエルン。
Damn. Then came the spooky Garo Froggy, the sleepy Garo Froggy, the burning Garo Froggy, the zombie Garo Froggy, the drunk Garo Froggy. How the hell did she remember all those? Hang on, had she...
お前コンプリートしてるの？
Have you collected all of them?
もちろんだよ。全部集めなきゃ意味ないもん。
Well, duh. There's no point if you don't collect them all.
毎週買うのに行列ができるんだからね。
That's why there's a huge line to buy one every week. For a half-assed piece of garbage like that, to be honest, even I could shit out a better design. Wait, why had she even decided to start lecturing me on Garo Froggies to begin with?
というわけで、このギョロリゲロカエルンあげる。
So yeah, I'm giving you this goggling Garo Froggy.
なんで？
Huh? Why?
このストラップを携帯につければ、少しは女子から「お、やるな」っていう目で見てもらえるから。
If you hang it on your phone, I bet you some of the girls at school will give you the googly eyes themselves. Hee hee. After saying that, Nanami started to put the strap on my phone. I don't want that. The fuck?
コンプしなきゃ意味ないんだろ。
There's no point if you don't collect them all, right?
僕がそれもらったらお前揃わないぞ。
If you give me that, your collection won't be complete.
心配しなくても大丈夫。2つ買ったもん。
Oh, don't worry about that. I bought 2.
毎回2つ買ってるのか。
Do you buy 2 every time, or? I was starting to seriously doubt her aesthetic taste.
今回だけだよ。お兄の携帯用に余分に買ったの。
Nah, just this time. I bought an extra one for you and your phone.
わざわざ。
Purposefully?
わざわざ。
Purposefully. Having now finished attaching the strap, Nanami gave a satisfied nod before wrapping her mouth around her soda straw. Then, she suddenly leaned forward, startling me.
別に並んだのはお兄のためじゃないよ。
Although it's not like I stood in line just for you or anything.
あくまでついでなんだから。
I just did it because I could. That's all.
いらない。
I don't want it.
は
ぁ What? Still leaning forward, Nanami opened her eyes wide. She looked like she might throttle me at any moment.
いらないって。ナナがわざわざ買ってきてあげたのに。
You don't want it? Even though I purposefully went out of my way to buy it for you?
ついでだったんだろ。
You said you just did because you could.
っていうか、僕、ゲロカエルンとか興味ないし、むしろキモいし。
Besides, I don't care about Garo Froggies. If anything, I think they look horrible. Ugh.
だからお兄は女子にモテないんだよ。
This is why you're not popular with girls. I'd almost expected her to slap me, but surprisingly, Nanami managed to rein in her temper and sit back down. Then, instead of taking her anger out on me, she started nibbling on a fry instead as she sulked.
でも抵抗しても無駄だからね。よろりゲロカエルン、もうくっつけちゃったもん。
Well, it's not like there's any point in resisting. I've already put it on after all. She sure was acting like the queen of everything. Then again, I knew jack shit about cell phones, so it was true that Nanami knew best here.
もし勝手に外したら毎週並んでもらうの刑だからね。
And if you even think about taking it off, you'll be the one standing in the weekly line. Got it?
並ぶって何に？
Weekly line? For what exactly?
決まってんじゃん。新作ゲロカエルンを買うための行列。2時間待ちとか普通だから。
Hello. So you can buy the new Garo Froggy. The whole thing usually takes a couple hours. Not a chance in hell. No way I was gonna let my sister hit me with a threat like that. For a while after that, Nanami wordlessly continued to fiddle around with my phone. I wasn't particularly picky about whatever she was setting up, so I was honestly grateful for the silence.
なんだか変な気分だな。
To be honest, this all feels kind of strange. The next time she opened her mouth, her sullen demeanor from before had completely disappeared. I guess she only needed a few minutes to forget annoying shit instead of having to sleep it off. Talk about easy going. In a way, I envied her.
やっぱ変だよ。
Yep, it really is strange.
お兄とこうして2人で出かけるのって久しぶりな気がするもん。
It feels like we haven't gone out like this in forever, big bro.
いつ以来かな。よく思い出せないや。
I wonder when the last time we did something like this was. I actually can't remember.
お兄はいっつも部屋にこもってアニメ見てるかゲームしてるかだもんね。
You're always cooped up in your room watching anime and playing games, so I guess it only makes sense.
まあ、たまにはこういうのもいいかな、新鮮で。
But yeah, doing this every once in a while is nice. Gotta shake things up, you know?
さすがに毎日はあんなのも嫌だけど。
It definitely sucked doing this every day though, even for me. Nanami placed my phone on the table and picked up her fish sandwich. She happily undid the wrapping and then heartily sank her teeth in. Come to think of it, I feel like she had said at one point that the fish sandwich here was her favorite food.
せいぜい太るがいいさ。
Have fun getting fat, cow. Nanami instantly stopped moving. She glared at me menacingly. Then, after hesitating for a second, she bashfully held out her half-eaten fish sandwich.
半分食べる？
You want the other half?
もう手遅れだよ。
You're already too late there. Grr.
そういうこと言うと上司に嫌われるって覚えといた方がいいよ、バカ鬼。
Saying stuff like that'll make all the girls hate you. You better keep that in mind, you big jerk. Nanami ended up finishing the fish sandwich all on her own. What a fucking fat ass. After that, Nanami held me hostage with hours of useless chatter, and by the time I finally had my phone back, it was already dark. It had been a long, painful few hours, but eventually I was able to get away from Nanami and start heading back home. Fall seemed to be in full swing now, with the night breeze carrying a slight chill, one that soothed my headache and nausea. Those two things never failed to torment me whenever I spent a long time in crowds. Honestly, Nanami, kiss. Okay, don't actually, but still, kiss. She only ever thought about herself. She probably didn't even have a clue about how much torture she constantly inflicted on me. If I had the option, I'd love to snap my new phone cleanly in half right now and throw it into the nearest trash can. It wasn't like I'd bought it with my own money after all. But if I actually did that, it wouldn't just be Nanami that'd come to my base, but my parents too. And then, without picking up on a damn thing, they'd just go, "Oh, since it broke on you, let's go and buy you a new one," like the idiots they were. Thus, I reluctantly suppressed my urges to smash the damn thing. I need to get home, and quickly. I could hear another night of ESO calling my name. Not a single day had passed recently that hadn't filled me with endless anxiety. I really hoped my peaceful everyday life would hurry and come back already. On that night, another grotesque case occurred, the fourth Nugent case. Like always, Grim laid out the details to me when I was playing ESO. Hey Dart, what's up, Grim? A bit later than usual today, huh? Grim put, "Whose eyes are those eyes?" He went, "Huh." I couldn't believe my eyes. Why did Grim know that phrase? I was completely taken aback. My fingers trembled on the keyboard. I didn't even know where to start with responding. Hell, even just looking at what he typed nearly took everything out of me. The fourth Nugent case happened. Been following the shitstorm this whole time. Things be really heating up in Shibuya. This one's seriously fucking crazy, dude. The victim's corpse had all the blood completely drained out. They found them dead in whatever station bathroom. And the corpse was really something. Skin had turned green. Freaky. I bit my lip as I watched the messages flow. My imagination came very close to forming an image, but I was just barely able to keep that delusion at bay. I took a gulp of cola from the bottle to calm myself somewhat. Damn that Grim. He had to be ambushing me like this on purpose. There's no way a person could do this. Whatever. No reaction? He's thinking the cult theories might be true. Neidhart, how do you know so much about it? You're talking almost like you were there. Grim, well, something like that. Also, I guess you're still not interested in this stuff, Neidhart. New gen and all that jazz. Neidhart, not enough to follow it. Too busy grinding in ESO. Grim, never change, oh lightning fast Neidhart. A true video game addict that puts the rest something. I didn't really want to talk about New Gen, so I somehow managed to fool Grim into bringing the topic to an end. That's why we love you. Take a look at this. What do you think? I'm sensing some serious bait. Last time he'd done this, he'd act like it was some gory shit, only for it to be some random dumbass meme. This time could very well be the opposite. Grim, huh? You seriously don't know about it? Neidhart, about what? Grim, are you actually a wrong sighter, Neidhart? Neidhart, fuck off. Fine, what is it? Grim, what if I said it's related to your precious Seratan? For real? Then I had to look. As far as I could tell, the URL looked like it linked to some auction page, so it probably wouldn't crash my browser or hit me with anything mentally scarring. Slightly excited, I opened the link. Huh? Type B blood in short supply. I felt like I'd seen that title somewhere. Might have been deja vu again. Anyway, more importantly, where'd that fat-worthy Seratan pick? I spun my mouse wheel and scrolled down the page. Ugh. I could tell at a glance that the image came up on my monitor was obviously gore. I averted my gaze to my left monitor in a panic, then quickly closed the browser. The gore had only been on my screen for less than 3 seconds, and the time I spent actually looking at it was even less than that, but even so. Grim. It's a picture of the corpse from the 4th Nugent case, from before the mass media started reporting on it. Being sold on an auction like it's totally normal. It's like they're putting a price on the victim's tragic state. So basically, seller name's Vampire. Well, actually, it's probably just some throwaway. Even so, this has already caused a total shitstorm online. Been posted all over tons of image boards. There's even memes. It's like Rule 34. People do this shit way too fast. Oh yeah, did you notice the dying message in the image? Dying message. It's written on the wall of the victim's blood. Still can't believe it's there. The culprit probably did it for shits and giggles. Hello? Your computer frozen? Dying message. I'd only seen the image for an instant, and yet
ゲームだ。こんな世界は虚構のゲームの世界に違いないんだ。
This is a game. It can't be real. This world can't be real. This has to be a game world. The victim's last message, written sloppily in deep red blood, had been burned into my mind. No matter how much I tried not to think about it, the letters rose one by one on my closed eyelids, urging me to realize them.
なんであの言葉がここで出てくるんだ。
How was that phrase there? I knew those words all too well. Words I often murmured to myself. Words I asked nobody in particular. The words Grimm had first said when I jumped on ESL. It was like they were everywhere now. Those words that I had never actually said to anyone throughout my entire life. Ah, whose eyes are those eyes?